Yeah.
And they're really dope. I built them from
I'm talking about Jerry.
I love that. I think he likes it.
I'm calling him.
I've
seen that.
Keio does because he's black.
It's Blick.
You feel better, but
Paul doesn't.
Yeah, no more Blick.
So it's like three of us that have aged. No offense, you, Gary, and me. We're the only ones here that are aging at all.
Hey, let me turn that up.
Gary!
Let me turn that up so you
what's
can
your
hear.
nationality?
It's us three, man.
I don't look good modern. Did you say Asian? You know, the alternative is the bitch.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, as far as you're concerned, you're doing well, right? You ain't Asian. It's stopped. That's right. That's right. Yeah. There is no more.
Bring out your dead.
Bring out your dad.
I'm not dead yet.
We're having, man. We're having zingers right now, man. Put that down, zingers. John Hammond.
Zinger.
Oh! Is that?
While waiting. That's just
Oh, he heard a noise.
That was act like that.
That was Daniel fleeing the premises.
We're not supposed to be here, guys. Guys, leave.
Yeah, right. He's checking.
I was kind of hoping my bride would be here. To spice things up.
When he comes in, we all go, what
Yes.
part of the
Yeah. Usually get a better time.
That's a wrap. All right. See ya.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the words.
Yeah. That was good.
Oh! Oh, we're watching our careers die.
We're gonna. We
He'll
need to
take a
talk.
beer. Hammond needs a beer.
You're on Celebrity Jeopardy.
Look at those ostrich boots. Hey,
I thought so.
Ed, how much did you make off that fork stuff to make those boots? How much were those boots? That's at least a $200 boot. I know those boots.
Good to see you, man.
Got it from your rodeo buddy.
Oh, did you?
No.
Oh.
Hey, Johnny. Hey, how are you, brother? Good to see you.
Well, we short of stool.
Thank you.
All right.
We can tighten up.
He's got a stool over here. Somebody does.
Get him a beer, please. He does fancy beer. He does fancy beer.
I'll have a
Yeah.
beer as well.
Yeah.
Please.
And we got tequila.
John does not want a beer.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, of course.
Is it tequila?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary does.
Really does.
I'll take a hit of that. Oh, no. I'll get a cup. Trey, you don't have to do that. I can get him to do that. Get in there. Get in there.
I apologize, everybody. I didn't.
Oh, please. We're all just...
You have nothing to apologize for.
Well, you just wait.
Boy.
Right. Time. Plenty of time for that.
Billy, what's wrong?
No, I'm good.
Holy crap.
I'm good, man.
Spin that one off.
It'll look like we're.
Gave us more time to talk about you.
We can see
man.
which end of the table is going to be the liar.
Yeah, right.
What do you mean by that?
It's like Thanksgiving where there's the adult
love
table.
Gary. I love you, man.
Hey, your shirt's got to be on.
One more toast to Gary.
You're always there when nobody else was.
So halfway through, we're gonna take a shot.
Russian dragon overplaying.
Boy, if I never see one of those sumbitches again, it'll be too soon. The Russian dragon. Holy moly.
I remember the ads in the magazine.
That was some imposed terror on session drummers, wasn't it?
They called him the Russian dragon.
What do you mean you're not perfect?
I didn't know.
You know how to say?
Carl Hamill.
Really?
Right, Greg? Like, what do you mean you're not perfect?
I mean, I'm not.
But yeah, they nicknamed him the
I
Russian.
like it that
I've
way.
been told I'm not.
Damn.
He used to bring his
Bruce
dog
play
outside.
this thing is called a Rolling Stones record.
The dog had the number that had the collar. I mean, the scarf on his
Yeah,
leg.
yeah.
Sit by the bass drum and never make a sound.
I can't do anything like this without something. Do
It would be fun to tempo map honky tonk women and just
played
see.
on,
Oh yeah.
I know he played on a lot of stuff. Did you play
It's a lot of increase.
Somebody just do that.
I think
It had to be at least that.
I mean, it's a
Quad.
good bit in the first few balls. Right?
Yeah.
I
By
mean,
the
it's like
first
starting
chorus,
to
it is.
starting an old
Yeah.
jalopy up and getting going. You know, it was perfect.
It is.
But, you know,
What would you change?
Nothing.
Would you would you tune Otis Redding's vocal?
No.
Oh,
Cheers.
God.
And just
Gary.
Gary!
There we go,
Gary.
Our captain.
we've heard some of the Heat Detective Beatles records and what happened with that. So
We're gonna talk about. Can I talk? I'll start. Can I start with this? Absolutely go. All right.
wait a minute.
I could ask everyone to just pull their mic just closer to them.
What do we do?
Test. Should I get up on close like
Test you.
Tennessee Titans taking the second round.
You know us smart asses are going to do that.
He's singing that note. Yeah, that's good.
All right. I'm gonna take this over.
note?
I'm gonna take this over because I've been out of town a little bit, and Gary, I'm gonna tell one of my favorite Gary stories. Okay, I got two. Okay, so I just moved to town. I used to buy my drum heads from you, the CM0094s,
Yeah,
custom made,
the Larry
double O,
London,
the Larry London snare drum head.
With the dot underneath.
Right. I couldn't get them in Chicago. I had no idea what they were. So you would sell them to me 10 at a time, right? And you were always so sweet to me. So when I told you I was coming down to live, you're like, well, come down here for a day. And you can just sit on the stools. We always had freaking stools at the old fucking shop, right? Oh, sorry. We're allowed to
No,
swear?
we're not doing that.
No,
Sorry. Okay.
maybe impossible.
And I'll go ahead and I'll go bust his balls because he's not here, and I've told him the story a bazillion times. But so I sat there, and he goes, just tell me at the end of the day, I'm going to ask you who you thought were the pro guys and who were the not pro guys, right? So two things happened that day. I met Mr. Chris McHugh for the first time, and I just bought the White Heart Freedom album. and when he looked at me and went, "That's Chris McHugh," I'm like, so I went over to Chris McHugh and I wanted to tell him, and he just kind of went, he just blew me off, completely blew me off. Right? So he knows the story. He's always been a. So that was my first Chris McHugh encounter, and I'm like, well, shit. But then everybody that I said, I thought was somebody. The guys who came in and said, I got all this, I'm like, oh, that must be Kroon, or that must be because there wasn't, I didn't have that pace, I didn't know who these people were, right? That must have been you or whomever, right?
You probably beat me here.
No, but oh yeah, I did actually.
You did.
But they didn't. It was totally the opposite. Eddie and Lonnie and all those guys who came in didn't say shit. They just came in, hey, paid for everything, never asked for any deal or anything, right? And walked out.
Yep.
That, and I was broke. I had no money, and I had a gig at a VFW, and I needed a new snare head. And he goes, take a snare head. You pay me when you can. Yeah. That was my first week in Nashville. That's Gary Forkum. He didn't know me from Adam.
I remember that.
absolutely.
I remember you came in.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
I got to tell my naked story. So,
Wait a minute. Excuse me. Chad Smith story?
no, you sit down, Greg, and both you
Have
go.
to do with Chad Smith?
So we would have these,
I'm
Gary,
excited.
your parties are freaking known. So one year, you and I we made a deal. Every time we saw each other, no matter what we were drinking, if we passed each other, we'd give each other a shot of tequila.
Oh.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
So at, I don't know, like 3 or 4 in the morning, I had my shirt off. I'm playing your Black Baby grand piano.
yeah.
Right, remember that?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, no, you're playing for me, and I'm singing. What was it? How was it?
I don't remember what you were singing, but I remember. And we were so drunk, we were playing it so slow.
I love you. Thank you. I couldn't have done anything here without
you,
you.
buddy.
Thank you very much.
Love you too. Thank you.
That's fine. Is that a good way to start it?
I remember the first time Paul came in,
Uh-oh.
and he needed. It was. It may have not been the shop. May have just still been corner music.
It was
Strum
the
department.
first time I remember was in the actual closet.
Yeah. We had the
Over
one
there,
room
yeah.
by the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I figured out he was a drummer, and I said, man, I don't have much stuff right now, but what kind of sticks do you use? I think you were playing 747 Pro Marks.
Yeah, at the time I was playing whatever they had for sale that I had
In
to drive to
Georgia.
Winkler's in Madison.
I said, all right, I'll get you some.
So-
I'll order a dozen
Yeah.
tomorrow. And everybody that came in, I was kind of like, yeah, man, what kind of heads do you use? Or what, because I didn't have anything. I think I bought Larry's inventory for $8,000.
Wow.
Borrowed 4 from my grandfather and 4 from my father.
Yeah.
And a bunch of junk.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Lord knows what that could have been.
Yeah.
Then I got
Yeah.
a symbol from you, and then you started getting more inventory and stuff. And it
Yeah.
wasn't long before you moved across the street.
Yep.
But I had been going there because I was playing in this band with Michael St. Leon, and it was a funk, Maurice Day and the Time, this 80s loud funk band. I was using these 3 S's, and I was turning the butt side around, and that was it, just pounding it out all night long. And they had them, only stick they had in Corner Music in this box, and Ray sold them to me $3 a pair.
We had bought a whole box of
Yeah.
Ludwig 3 S's.
That's what I think.
Man,
they
that's,
were.
that's what I used in
Yeah.
high school.
Yeah.
Not in marching band, but I mean, on my kit. That's
With
what
the
I
blue
used in-
foil, it was a blue foil on
Yeah,
it, right?
Yeah,
Light
blue-
blue
yeah,
foil.
blue,
yeah. And so I walked in there one day, and it was in the immediate room to the right. Originally, just in there with a few other things, a few drum heads, not much stuff, right? And that was the only thing I was ever interested in. Otherwise, I'd drive out to see Jimmy Heap at Winters, and I went in there, and there's nothing. And there's some guitar stuff in there or something. I look and I see, what happened to the drum stuff? And somebody, it might have been Ray, I can't remember, pointed down toward where your room is,
across
and there
the-
was
across
a
the
little
street.
shingle hanging out from the closet. It said Fork's Drum Closet, and you had one counter, which may still be one of them that's in the store. I don't know. There was one counter and
I think it is.
maybe a cymbal stand
That
with a
stick
cymbal
rack,
on it or something.
that stick rack that we had, the guys at Stephen Gaskin's farm made that for us.
Oh, okay. I remember. Yeah, now that you mentioned
They
that.
swapped out that
Yeah.
for PA gear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that dates back to 76 or something.
Oh, yeah, man. Well, you were good to me on many occasions because I remember how gullible I was with the whole young drummer thing, and I was into Stuart Copeland so big time at the time because it was so unlike anything else that was out there in radio land and all this stuff. And he got those Peisty Roods, and they were in the Modern Drummer, and I went down there, and you had just gotten in the store. This is when you were across the street by this point.
Yep.
And I took them to my gig that night, and they sounded like manhole covers.
Yeah, they You brought it back the next day, didn't
I
you?
brought them back the next day, and you were like, "No, I understand." I was like, "Man, I'm so sorry, I don't have any money,
He
and you-
traded me a 67 Ludwig Champagne Sparkle for his Mahogany Thomas. too.
Yeah, that was another thing that
we-
was an
we couldn't
eye
give
opener
them
and an
away at
ear
that
opener for
time.
me
Yeah,
because they
in
were
the- in the
huge,
early
big,
80s,
live
nobody
sounding
wanted
drums. It was
Were
just
they the Imperial Star
No,
or the
his-
Superstars?
No, they were Imperial. They were no,
You
they
had
were
Superstars.
Superstars. Birch, the
But
mahogany.
his
finishes.
Champagne Sparkle kit wasn't worth anything.
No,
at that
I
time.
tried to sell them to a
Nothing was
sound
worth
man.
anything back then.
Listen, I tried to sell them to a sound man in a band we had for
amazing.
$350, and
Yeah.
he didn't buy.
Yeah, nothing was worth anything back then.
Yeah. So yeah, and the other thing about you mentioned about letting you borrow stuff. I remember when before there were any big box stores, Mars Music came over to Honey Oaks Mall, right? And Maxwell Schaff was working over there, and he would still come shop with us, and he's kind of like our inside source of what was going on over there. He'd go, "Man, they have these meetings, and somebody brought up the fact that if you go to Forks and your pedal's broken, they'll give you one to take home and use for the night." And you should have seen the look on their faces when it said it. It's like
You can't do that.
how can they possibly do that with their inventory? Well,
I remember
Mayberry.
when you the first time you came in too.
I remember pretty well just because I was in a van tour from Boston. It was like, mid-90s. Knew about Forks, so I wandered in. I'm like, this is amazing. Drums on, risers as I walk in. I'm just flipping out. You helped me. You just wandered out, and I'm like, I wasn't putting it all together. And you walked up to me and you said, "Oh, you're from Boston." I went, "This guy's amazing." How could he know that? That's incredible.
I go to Berkeley.
No, I had a green Red Sox hat on, like an idiot, like a moron. And Gary's looking at me like, yeah, I figured it out. He's looking at me as kind as he could be. "You all right, man?" Like, looking at me like, "Can I help you with something?"
That's awesome.
I'm like, yeah, and so you did. Not only did you sell me a kit that day, it was a consignment kit. You worked it out. I couldn't take it in the van because we had no room in the van. So I used it on the gig that night at the Ace of Clubs. I brought it back, and you shipped it to me in Boston like a week later.
Wow.
It arrived at my apartment in Boston like a week later. I didn't even live here yet. It was like 95 or something, but this guy's psychic, and he sells me drunk. It's an amazing place. This is an amazing place.
What was the kid? What
I
was
knew
the
if you
kid?
played it, you would buy it. You know.
Yeah, well, yeah. For some reason, it was
That works.
it was a
well.
consignment DW kit.
It was one of the first DWs.
Like early
It was
'90s DW,
early-
like Champagne
early 90s.
Sparkle, by the way, and it was just sort of, I was like a little kid in a candy store. It's like the first kit when you walk in, like
Caught your eye.
shiny, shiny, sounds good. Me wanty that kit,
Yeah.
whatever, and I used it that night. Yeah, it was, and it arrived in my apartment, and I stuffed it in the corner of my apartment in Boston a week later. But
If we put a kit on that riser and it didn't sell within a week or two, we moved
Right.
it to the rack. 'Cause if you don't see that
Yeah.
kit and like it,
Yeah.
But in seriousness, the fact that you were on the floor, and not only did you help me out, you kind of like, wrangled me and then took care of me. You didn't know me from anybody. I was some moron who walked in off the street. Didn't even realize my own hat at the time. And it was amazing. I'm like, this place is amazing. Never even knowing I was going to move there a year later,
Yeah.
or even
It
conceiving.
planted the seed.
Oh my God! I was like, "This is in Boston." I went the same shop for 15 years, and they barely look up from the counter. Like,
Well, that was
whatever.
Paul. So you know.
He knew I was, because I'm sitting over here thinking, how am I going to zing Trey?
First blood.
You're welcome.
I should have
I
had
want to
that
know
tequila.
about your time in Valentine's Saloon and your black dyed
Oh,
black hairdo. No, let's talk about it. Come on now.
This
This was before any sort of Faith Hill gig or any
Why are we
sort of
talking about this?
some sort of notable gig or anything. And
Why are we talking about this?
because I don't know,
Gary.
this seemed like a good thing to
I
talk
don't
about.
think it's a good thing to talk. I'll tell you this. I remember this. Oh my gosh, you guys would bust my balls weekly because I would come down I'd be there all the time. I go there, Well, when some people are there, no offense, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, but
Should have practiced more.
I know. Don't trust me, I know. Shut up. So, what we're talking about? See it numbing in my mind. What were we talking about?
It started with black hair.
Valentine's
All
Saloon.
the time.
Bust my balls.
Both my balls.
Dang it. See, you guys, that's what's going to happen in my mind.
There's just too many times.
Though, it worked great.
You got him off your back, right? Is that what it was? Yeah.
You came
Oh,
up
wait.
for a long time before you actually moved up here. You would come up.
I came up as much as they'd let me.
Yeah.
They didn't let me that much. But yeah, I commuted and was just trying to. I was beating my brains out in Memphis. At the time, you could down there. To have 4 gigs a week, you had to be in 4 bands,
Right.
because there wasn't no place that was going to hire the same band for 4 nights. So you do that and then work whatever you could. I had a little studio down there. I would engineering jingles, in the daytime and playing 4 nights a week. It just was, maddening. And this is where we kind of, unbeknownst to either of us at the time, are
That's how we first started.
kind of share a
Yeah.
thing, because one of the things that actually brought me up was Scott Hendricks
Yeah.
called me at my house in Memphis and said, "Man, would you ever consider coming up and my girlfriend's a singer."
Yeah. Faith.
Really?
Faith.
But it was they had been looking for a drummer, they've been auditioning people at SR and who knows anything about that, but
And Dan Hill was a drummer too.
Daniel,
Daniel.
her
first,
first,
yeah.
He was
Yeah.
a good
Daniel
customer
Hill.
back in the
Yeah,
early
right.
days.
hence the hill.
I know.
Anyway, that was one of the things that brought me up here, and I did that for I don't know 3 months or so. And I got to tell this story because it was after a show. We were third on the bill on a Reba tour with John Michael Montgomery and Reba, and we had 20 minutes. You know this thing. And so we're playing, and everything seemed to be going good. And I get on the bus one night, and Greg, he calls me to the back of the bus, and I'm going, oh my God. He said, "Come back here. Yeah, Faith and I want to talk to you for a minute." And so I go back there and sit down and said, "Man, we really enjoy having you in the band, but you don't need to be doing this. And I'm like, okay, do you want to tell me what I need to be doing? Because I really don't know if it ain't this. But to his eternal credit, he said, man, you need to come up here and be around town.
Yeah.
And because I think you can work here, but you can't do this and that. It was at that time, Jerry knows what I'm talking about. Everybody at the table knows what I'm talking about.
Back then, as soon as you went on the road, people forget about
you had to pick your team.
Yeah.
And he was telling me to pick a team, and I had gotten the same thing from Norbert Putnam at about the same time. Yeah. And the funniest thing about this was, anyway, I'd done some sessions for Norbert, and he and Cheryl took my wife and I out to lunch one day, and I had just gotten my first pay envelope from the union for a week of sessions for Norbert, and I was just like, I did,
This is what everybody's been trying to tell me.
This ain't real. I owe somebody a big hunk of this, And my wife was just like, what in the world, is stopping you? And it was just, I didn't want to leave Memphis, but, I found great kinship up here, and it was centered at that shop.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the other thing about it was I grew up working at a shop in Memphis, and we shared so much of our bonding was sharing old stories from the late 70s and the very early 80s about going to NAMM shows and Herb Brockstein and
Pro Market.
I mean just all the old classic originators of the drum business.
That's a great Gretch
Armand
story.
Oh, Armand and all of them.
Almost
Irwin
single-handedly.
Bird.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mr. Bird,
those were the guys that started it all.
But okay, and I got to tell a story on you too. Is that okay? Is that allowed to? Okay. So you're very humble. There's two stories I got for you, honey.
Oh my God.
One is Steve E.B., who we all love Steve E.B. So before I knew you, because in '92 you did a George Dukas record. Remember that? Lipstick Promises.
Yeah.
Who's that guy? Good dude. That's you. Okay.
I don't remember that.
There was another. Oh, I do. Let me tell you, buddy. But there was another a thing, and Evie was like, you overdubbed this Tom thing, but you overdubbed it. And I ran into you years later at the shop, and I was drinking probably with Gary. You did that sometimes. taking a blue pill, Viagra. But no, and I go, fuck, man, I could never get that. And you go, you idiot. I overdubbed that. We weren't doing tracks. We weren't doing anything like that.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's not
I know
now,
exactly
and everybody's got a
saying.
lap,
Because I've dug that hole for myself a bunch of times by winding up having to play live something that I did some crazy
So
overdub.
that, and is this story true? And I think I've asked you this before, and you deny it. But didn't you have a drum set left in your car? Your car gets stolen, correct? In Memphis.
Yes.
The police find it, 3 or 4 days later. They did not. Your wallet was in everything, right? And they did not take the drums or wallet or anything.
The best part of the
that
story
true?
is the police didn't find it.
Oh.
A friend of mine, and yes, a friend of mine lived 2 doors down from where that car was parked on the street.
Oh my God!
And I got a phone call from him at the studio one day. He calls, hey, Greg, this is Jack Holder was his name.
Oh, I know Jack Holder.
Yeah. And he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I was literally on the phone trying to buy a car from the Ford dealer. He said, well, call me back. So I called him back. He said, man, did you sell your Saab? And I'm like, no. He said, well, were there drums in it?
Like, how many other ones in Memphis?
I said, yes, there were. He said, it's parked on the street 2 doors down from my house. It's been there for 3 weeks.
Oh my God!
But that tells you that's how good of the guy this guy is. That's karma, baby. That's the big guy because you have a huge heart, man. You're all about love, and that's a cool story.
Well, you're very gracious.
No, seriously.
But the
seriously,
thing,
right? Am I right in saying that?
absolutely.
Come on, man.
I had just driven back from a faith gig. I had taken.
Of course you did.
I had taken this kit to one of those opening slots. I was still living in Memphis at the time, driving, meeting them wherever it was, and the drums were in there. $125 cash and per diem in the floorboard, and the keys were in the ignition.
That's good living, brother. Hey, cheers.
The only
That's good
thing I
living.
had to do was boost the car off, and I called the police because I had filed a report. I called the police. I said, I found my car. I'm boosting it off and driving it home. And I did. Drove it home. I still have the car.
As you should. Isn't that a great story?
That's amazing.
It is but the thing that's one of the things I enjoyed most about, I could just, I would come in and walk straight to your office, and we would talk about, those old shows and ordering this and ordering that. And I think, didn't Dave help you with inventory a little bit?
Dave was, when he was in Memphis,
Yeah.
I talked to him some, and then when he went to work for Gretch, he would go through the factory and he'd find those R series drums, which Fred called those rental. They were rental quality, but they had minor blemish on them somewhere.
Well,
And
it'd be
he would
mismatched badges or
Right,
Yeah.
whatever.
And he would put kits together and call us and call Jim Pettit, and we killed with those kits because they were like 50 and 20 and something else.
way
So,
marked down.
Yeah, so we could sell them at half off. And
Man, I
still-
bought an R series
Yeah.
kit. You used it on strawberry wine.
Yeah.
I did. It was an R series Caribbean Blue Gretch kit.
Oh my God.
It could be a little. I bought a tom one time, the 10-inch tom. It was black lacquer, and the only thing it had just a little ding in the badge.
Yeah.
Nothing on the finish. Anywhere else was perfect.
Yep.
Just a little ding. You think, well, they could have just changed that badge out.
That's
Gretch for you in a
figured.
nutshell.
I always figured that at some point, maybe on a shift break or something, if they needed one drum to fill out an R series kit,
Yeah. Right.
that
But-
could
and
happen.
then,
Sorry,
and then
clumsy.
Dave was in the early Craviotto days.
Yes, he was.
Same deal.
Yeah,
He would call
when they were
me.
called solid.
Yeah, he would call me and he called Pettit and a couple other guys and say, "I've got this thing or I got this."
Yeah.
We always had to send the money up front. You remember that?
Yeah, because they didn't have any.
We had to send him money up front so they could go buy hardware for it.
Well, yeah, to pay the die casting bill or the
Yeah.
plating bill or
Yeah.
they burned through Bill Gibson's wallet.
Oh yeah,
They really did.
no doubt.
Well, my relationship with Gary and Drum Shop is much like you guys. One of the key things for me was a great hang. You get to meet, you guys, I've been doing it a long time, but you guys are my heroes. I know a lot about each of your drumming and your playing, but it was always a camaraderie thing when you went there. It seemed like the egos got checked when you went in the
sure
door.
did.
Now there's a couple
I sure did.
If they didn't check themselves, they got
got
checked.
Yeah.
And you mentioned talking to Gary. One thing where Gary and I had a talk, and it's still Tommy Wells and I were really close.
Yeah.
I love Tommy Wells, and I shed a lot of tears as a grown man when Tommy died.
Everybody
And
did.
sometimes I just go in there and talk to Gary about it, just kind of like not vent, but just talk about it.
Commiserate.
I flat missed Tommy, and but the thing that I really noticed about Gary and the place, and he's always surrounded himself with really quality people that work behind the counter.
Thank you. I
Whether
agree
you
with
were
that.
10 years old or you were in the league that we were in and wanted to buy a $5,000 kit or do whatever, that young person, male or female, got treated just like they were professionals.
Because they were going to be professional.
I sent a lot of
Stories about that.
I sent several people there to their store that would have gone to the other store, Guitar City or some other place.
Yeah.
Because I said, if you will go there, I talked to the parents, if you'll go see this guy named Gary,
Yeah.
Forkum at Fork's Drum Shop, he will treat you right.
Yeah.
And you'll have a place that your son or daughter, if they play for very long, will go there all the time because it's the best place, and they'll get to meet a lot of people. And he's a square guy. He's
You can
just
trust
really
him.
a great guy.
There was so many people that would come to the drummers that would move to town, and you and Tommy and all these guys, but would take them over to Sylvan Park and
Yep.
buy them a meal. Tell them, here's what you do, here's what you don't do. You know.
Yeah, but
and
it was such a great hang. And then plus, obviously, there's been times when I had to send cards to get a foot pedal, and we'll work out the money thing later or something like that. And that meant a lot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It meant a lot.
It was community, you know.
Yeah.
I grew up in a little town in Connecticut with a drum shop and hung out there 5 days a week, and they had a couch and you'd sit there and the old guys would come in and tell stories. And it was just, you know, and that's what made Forks, you know. It's
you don't get that from a computer screen.
Yeah. No.
And the great thing for me, since I'll confess now that I don't care.
Are we all in that club now?
Slow down that Coca-Cola over there, Kroon.
I'm an idiot when it comes to drum equipment. You guys you sit there and you talk about things, and like when Tommy and I would do these seminars, you know, we'd do 10 people and we'd take them for a few weeks and take them to the studio with us, and then they'd ask us about our equipment. I'd say, well, it's round. It makes noise.
What did Tommy always?
If I do really well, the wallet grows.
Yeah. Most everybody
Tommy, what do
in
I
here-
play? He says, well, he's got the XYZ beat.
Yeah.
Damn good. I didn't know.
He was a total gear nerd. He knew every.
Tommy was just crazy, but it was I didn't know that much about stuff sometimes. I mean, it either sounds good to me, and I know that's kind of showing my ignorance, but it either sounded good or didn't. I mean, one of the best snare drums I ever played on a lot of the hit records I played on was $90 from a pawn shop that had Ben in it.
Yeah.
It worked.
Well, most all you guys know about gear and know about drums and stuff, but there was 2 or 3 really busy session players that could care less about it, and Paul used to pick out cymbals for them. And,
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Well, Lonnie, and I don't think
Lonnie?
he would care telling us that we had that $3 bucket or $2 maybe at the time. I don't remember in the front, and he would just come in there and he'd just start pulling them out of there and start putting them on the counter. He'd just make sure they were all 2Bs or whatever they were, and he put them on his account. And
I still do
head out
that
the
with
door.
He was gonna mow through them.
Yeah, and he would call me. He'd go, "Man, I need a crash cymbal." Well, what size you want, Lonnie? I don't know. Just pick out something that sounds good.
Lonnie bought a pink set of Thomas from us,
Yeah.
and he said, "I want to be remembered. I want when that producer
Yeah.
goes, hire the guy with the pink drums."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it worked. I remember when you had the cartridge company for a minute there. That at one time
Corner
you told me
cartridge.
you said he's probably one of my best clients, and he was doing demos just continuously, and then he got that drum set and that idea, and it for whatever reason it worked. I mean, he played his ass off.
And he can play.
I mean, that's it at the end.
But
of
you
the
know,
day,
you
right?
had a good way of.
It was
I
the
don't know if you
candy
intentionally
sprinkle.
trained people
right.
or whatever, but the way you ran your business,
Well, we talked about it at meetings,
you
but
passed it down.
I think-
Daniel,
I
right?
think
Daniel's great.
I was just drawn to people that already had that sense of caring.
Yeah,
Right.
You know,
makes sense.
Passionate
you could
about
you could
drums.
see
Yeah.
within a few minutes of talking to somebody, or a lot of times some guys would hang out at the shop a lot. Danny came in a lot before he started working for us.
Mark
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Beckett,
Yeah.
Shannon when he was really young.
Daniel used to hang in the drum
Shannon
booth
was
with me
coming
when he
in
was
when
what,
he was
15?
13.
13.
Yeah, his mom would bring him and he'd buy stacks of drum heads
Yeah.
because he changed them out every
Yeah.
other session or something.
Talking about Shannon?
Yeah.
Yeah, he would do those custom gospel sessions at his dad's studio, and
Yeah.
he'd get paid a cash at the end of the day, and he lived at home.
Nick Buddha. Nick
What a
Buddha
sweet
came
deal,
up
right?
from South Africa
Yeah.
with his dad and about 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah.
He bought his first kit.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
a few years later came.
And Mark Beckett's older brother would drop him off because he wasn't old enough to drive at the time, and he was so into Eddie Bears, which
Yeah.
proved to be a
Yeah, but
good road for
A
him,
blessing.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
once again, you got to have it.
I remember saying to Martin Parker,
Oh,
we
man.
talked a lot.
Mark.
Yeah.
Another one, yeah.
You
Yeah,
talk
so-
on you, I'll tell you that, Martin.
Yeah.
Anyways, I remember talking to him about you out on the road and saying that we each grew up in hardware stores.
Yeah.
We had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His in North Carolina, mine in Florida. And my dad had a hardware store. He was a fire chief, and he had a big urn of coffee. And it was the most, growing up in the store, I remember it was the most, like, the camaraderie in that store. And that's what I found in your store.
Yeah.
I moved from Southern California. There wasn't shit like that at all out there.
And there's
were
information
egos,
there
there
if
were
you
other
need it
things.
too. That's the good thing about it. But at the same time, we had this bulletin board on the wall, and people would put their cards or whatever on there. So people would a lot of times call, and they'd from another city somewhere, and they'd start asking about how to get gigs in Nashville. And, you know, that always rubbed me just a little bit wrong because all you guys are already here in town. And I'm thinking, well, the best way to get gigs in Nashville is to be in Nashville.
Absolutely.
You know? And so let's just get there. So then he goes, and he says, well, what usually happens? I said, well, you know, like, for instance, if you get a call for a showcase, an artist will usually have some sort of recorded material, a CD or whatever. They'll give it to you. And they pretty much want you to learn it note for note, just like it is for the performance. And whoa, hang on a second. I got my own rolls.
Not anymore, you know.
I'm going to use this. Excuse me? Like that. Yeah. And so I immediately, you know, went, okay, well, good on you, man, but try to move down here if you can, you know. You and your rolls.
Man. We had a list of mispronunciated.
Oh, yeah.
Here.
Awesome. We got to get that in there.
Yeah. There was the, I need a clip adapter from a Skytom.
The one that goes on
the one that goes on the
flow
face,
not
the squatty leg.
Roll that off. No, it takes every now and then. It just takes just to get it rolling on the tongue. You know?
And
But
the Tampa free leaning stands.
Yeah.
Remember the stilt hardware?
Yeah. Oh my God! That's right up there with the Ludwig stands with the furniture casters on. Right.
I got to
The
call
gliders. You remember the glider feet? Oh my God!
But you guys say that, and I see myself going in there with some stupid, hey, I got this thing with the thing, and it's doing this thing, and Gary just,
Nah.
all right, let's go in the back. And he just, and
Let's
thinking
take that
like,
off. Let's get that off.
We got calls
first
about
thought,
all
this
kinds
guy's a
of things.
dipshit, never saying it, but to taking you back and just fixing it at the thing, it's
Clay was
amazing.
good
No
at
stupid
figuring that
questions.
stuff
in there.
out, and so was Clink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Steve O'Clink. He was the original
Yeah, you didn't know.
shop guy.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if
Ernie,
you
I
did either.
guess,
Did
was
you know
the
Clink?
original
You
shop
probably
guy.
know. Did you know Clink?
Yeah.
Okay.
When he wasn't reading the newspaper.
Clink. Ernie was good at crosswords.
Ernie, I loved it because Ernie and Gary were partners, and Gary was just driven trying to get this business off the ground, and Ernie he'd be up there, and at the old shop when we were next door, you walked up this ramp, and so you couldn't see what anybody was doing on the workbench on the other side until you got about halfway up the ramp where you could see over the wall, you know. And he had this figured out where he had his morning paper laid out, but he also could grab any kind of drum or whatever and just throw it over there. So he heard somebody coming up the ramp, you know, like that. And so we got to the point where we would sneak up, you know, like, and then pop up, you know, out of nowhere and go, "Hey, Ernie, what are you doing?" And he just scramble for a second, you know, like trying to.
So the shop was across from Corner for a while?
Well,
No, it was here
well,
in Berry Hill.
in
right?
Berry Hill,
Yeah.
we had 2 little rooms in it, and then the house across the street became available, and the rent was $355 a month. And
Wow.
I'm like, oh my God, how am I gonna pay this?
Yeah.
You know, and everybody was kind of like, oh man. And I went down and talked to my insurance agent, and he was like, oh man, you can do that. Isn't that guy named Randall Ritter? He
Yeah.
had a place down the street. He said, you can make that. Just do it. You got it. Don't worry about it. You got it. I'm like, okay. So we moved over in there, and I had one day, maybe a Tuesday, where it was 5:30. We closed at 6, and I hadn't sold anything all day. I mean, not one thing. And I went, man, what am I doing? Why did I get myself into this? And finally, a guy came in at 5:45 and bought a pair of drumsticks and a coated ambassador. I went, yes. I'm not shut out. I'm gonna make it. and you know, to finish that off, it wasn't too long after that Tommy Wells came in and said, I'm bringing you all my business, and I'm going to tell everybody I know to come here. I'm like,
Wow.
okay.
Ringing endorsement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And he started, you know, I started carrying Peisties, like
Yeah.
Paul said, and nobody else in town was doing that at the time. And I guess Tommy was a Peisty guy by then. So
yeah, I never remembered that
Yeah.
back that far, but I'm sure he was.
that kind of got him, you know, he had somebody
And
to
Jerry,
refer
what
to.
was his nickname?
Titmouse.
Yeah. Tommy was like a fine wine. The longer you knew him, the more you'd start talking about hockey and forget about other things, right? But he was a little buttoned up sometimes.
Well,
And when you were beside him, that never seemed to matter. Y'all would come walking in the store, and he'd be all proud y'all been to lunch or whatever like that. And something would happen, and he would start talking a little bit more prim and proper about things, and you would just automatically say something, and the word titmouse would come out, and it was just like the look would come over his face, and it was just so real at the moment, and such a true friendship moment.
a couple of
to
times
me,
I tried to hang him if there was like guys that really didn't know us that well, and I'd say, Gary, look, this guy right here, this SOB right here, took my account. I let him sub one time. And he snaked it right out from underneath. My kids are eating putty at it. Broke, and this SOB is supposed to be my friend. Man, people are looking around. What, these guys gonna fight us?
that's classic.
Hammered him.
And his face would turn red.
Oh,
He
yeah.
couldn't say anything.
Now here's the titmouse, everybody.
Sure did know.
Yeah.
Man. Okay, Hammond.
I'm trying to think of stuff.
No. We got to hear your first Gary story. How'd you all meet?
Man,
You were in the cartage company already.
Was
when
Mark
I
here
first
before
started
you?
oh yeah, Marcus your tour. I just anything that I just followed Mark around.
I think
And,
Mark may have been doing cartage with us when you moved to town, right?
Possibly.
I remember going with Bo on a pickup one time when we were slow or something, and I thought we were going to get Mark stuff, but we were going to get a gray recording.
A gray
CD.
Yamaha.
Oh, the
Yeah.
recorded custom. Yeah, the gray one.
was
Yeah, that's the first time I saw that one.
Shoved in a living room down on Music Row somewhere that's called a studio.
Did you live here when we would wind up seeing each other on festival dates and stuff back in the day?
Yeah, probably.
Did
So
you
I moved
live
here in
here
'82.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
beat me here by a good stretch.
Yeah,
But that's okay.
82. How old are you?
like 800. I think. You were talking about like gear though. It's like my stupid brother. It's like one of the best drummers I've ever known. It's like didn't give a crap about gear. Had
he
the
didn't.
worst crap.
No,
he
gear.
didn't.
and beat the crap out of him on top of it, because
Yeah.
that's the reason we started getting that CMO 09.
I used to have his Visa card memorized because he bought so much.
I remember
did.
the
I had
day,
it so all,
the day that Remo got the
16
brilliant
digits.
idea to release that as a standard model number drum head and put an ad in Modern Drummer.
The CMO
And we're all
094.
standing. We've been getting them for
Yeah.
umpteen, no, I don't know how many years, but a lot of years, And the CM stood for custom made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the only they just came up with a number and went, okay, well this head's going to be called this because it was an Emperor. They made the CS regular
Right,
CS.
but they
dot.
put the dot underneath because Larry needed.
Right.
with
Oh,
the
yeah.
brushes,
Right.
That was what the other thing
Yeah.
was. Dot was underneath.
And I would order those. I know, and we'd have to order them direct from Remo
Yeah.
when I ordered them, and they would take, because everything else would come in a few days. But they would take.
Oh,
a
they
while,
take
but we'd have to
month.
order a lot of them. at a time.
Sure was a bitch when that dot started
Oh
peeling.
no, when it came off.
I saw a drum.
And you'd have to pry that wedge that
Oh,
stuff out of
man.
there and stick to the bottom head and the inside of the shell.
I
What a
saw a
mess.
chrome pearl snare drum the other day that somebody left at rehearsal that they broke a lug on it so the head wasn't on it, and the whole inside of it was like a bomb,
Full
like a
of black dot
dot
stuff.
went on the-
For a while.
the
And
inside of it.
it wasn't. It seemed like it came in batches.
It does.
It
It,
did,
just
yeah.
happened
Yeah.
again. We had some.
It was some
Well,
bad
sometimes they would
gluing.
make them with white mylar, and sometimes
Yes.
they would make them with clear.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And it got to
Radovsky
where
used
you
to
had to
want
start
the
press-
white dot and the white mylar. I
Right.
think.
Right.
You know, like sometimes you want to do it. Just okay.
Yeah,
Close
just-
your eyes. Tell me which one's.
Wait. What'd you guys come up with? Is this what approved? What's it called?
Oh, RMD,
Which means what?
Real Men Drummers.
Which means what? Can you
Well,
please
it became a
tell the
thing
panel
for
what that is.
basically looking through Modern Drummer when it first came out and going through and that's not R&D. Yeah, oh,
Because
that's
you
not
guys
R&D.
got everything.
Yeah,
Like
we
you guys
just
had
go,
everybody
hey,
coming
man,
in.
People are going to be asking for this. We
Yep.
just saw this in Modern Drummer, and he'd say order them
Yep.
or whatever he had ordered or whatever happened. But to this day, Danny still sends me things that say not RMD, like that, and it's become this thing, which is just a.
Larry
loose saying
London
for-
was really, really nice to me when I opened the shop.
Well, you just gave him $8,000. He should have.
Well, no, that was Larry Garris. That
different
music.
Larry. I thought you were talking about. I thought you were talking about you bought DOG.
No. Well, when Debbie went out of business, she had
I got my timeline
That's
wrong.
okay. She had a weekend sale, and we bought what was left.
Right.
Yeah. And
they had already moved out to Nolensville Road to a not so good location.
Yeah.
But he actually started shopping with us before that, and then he was on tour with the Everlys in Europe when all that went down, and we just helped her kind of get out of a mess, and plus we got a bunch of gear.
She had a bunch of pearl parts that we didn't.
Tons.
We weren't a pearl
She used to
dealer
buy
at the
those
time,
big
and we were happy to
barrels
get all these
full.
pearl parts.
How'd you get them and Winkler didn't?
Well,
he probably
that's a
just
whole
didn't
nother
have
story.
enough money for it at the time.
Pass the
But
tequila.
Larry came in.
He was spending his money on billboards.
I was in the back early before we opened, and I hadn't locked the door, and I was working on something, and Larry came in and just gave me one of those hugs that he did, and I just kind of disappeared into his Hawaii shirt, and he said, "I want to thank you for helping Debbie," and he gave me a drum set. And I foolishly sold it.
Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, the one that he had.
He was going to go on tour with Journey. And the rest of the
22 by 24.
Yeah.
Steve,
Steve Perry wanted him, and
Yes.
Neil Sean was undecided at the time, and he had the offer from the Everly Bros. He had already been on tour with them umpteen times.
Larry gave me my first pearl kit.
He did?
Yeah.
When I moved to town in '71, we were checking in at the apartment at the office, and I said that I was a drummer, and they said, "Oh, we have another drummer here. His name is Larry London. You should meet him sometime." So
you didn't know who he was?
No.
Yeah.
And, I was probably too ashamed or too afraid to meet him anyway. I mean, he's a Nashville drummer. But Larry turned out to be, as you all know, most of you do. I mean, a tremendous guy that loved playing drums, but he also was very helpful. I mean, I got my first hit record because of Larry London. I got my first session, borrowed Larry loaned me his car and his snare drum to go to Hilltop to do a demo. The first session was Bowen called Larry to do a Mel Tillis record. He couldn't do it, and he recommended me.
Wow.
And Bowen didn't want to use me because he didn't know who I was, and I understand that. But Larry said, "No, give him a shot. He can do it." And the next thing he did great was we did a Haggard record, "Think I'll Just Stay Here and Drink," which is two drummers on the song, which is like, two drummers on a country record is like taking sand to the beach.
All right.
There you go.
That's what you have to walk out.
But I was, and I'm, you guys have all got great stories of where you've had things that have happened to you that were just really memorable and special. The fact that Larry thought enough of me to bring me in on a session like that and be the guy that says, "I want you to be the second guy."
Tell him about when you double-headed your toms.
Don't tell us. Come on.
You
All
remember?
right. Well, there's a couple of them if you don't mind.
All right. Gary, you need some more tequila?
So I'm new at this when we went to double heads. And tuning was scaring the heck out of me. But we were in RCA. The drums were sounding really great. I was hoping I didn't have to tune them because they were really sounding good, so I didn't know what I was doing. Come back from break, and the engineer wants to do a little sound check, so I go boom, boom, brr.
Oh.
Boom, boom, brr. He said, "Hey, Jerry, what's up with that tom?" I said, brr. I looked down and I seen like that? Little napkins that are wadded up like little BBs in the bottom. And I'm thinking, oh boy, I'm in trouble. I said, "Well, give me a minute." And I didn't know what to do because I really couldn't. I didn't feel comfortable tuning them, the double heads. So Bobby Thompson was sitting in front of me. He was playing acoustic guitar, and most of the people were smoking back then. And I said, "Thompson, you got a cigarette?" He said, I said, "Light it up for me." So Thompson gives me a cigarette. I take and I burn a hole in the bottom of my tom just enough to get the napkins out, and then I take Scotch tape and tape over, and we're good to go. Boom, boom. Man, they sound great. What did you do? Just a little tuning.
Man.
So Lovey and I, we had this like war kind of going on between us. I'm in RCA one day, and there's a hallway behind us, and we're doing Charlie Pride or something. All of a sudden, I mean, I'm kind of gazing up, and this hand has got me right by the sack. He's on the floor, and he's looking up. He said, "What are you gonna play?"
Wow.
He's got me by the sack. Then he finally leaves, and it's like he's gone. So a month or two later, Larry had this drum set where he had we call it the tower. Remember the stack of cymbals that he had? Any of you guys that knew his kit? So I went and we were in another part of the studio, and I went and got 4 or 5 rolls of toilet paper. And I went, on every drum. And on the snare I said, "London, this is for all the shit."
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That was our deal. But Larry was a great guy.
Didn't Larry get him with the baby powder, or vice versa? You know that
Probably.
Yeah.
Our crew did it to us.
yeah.
I mean, my gosh. The best thing Martin ever did to me, he and a couple other people in the crew knew that I was playing dowel sticks. And that because there were 2 drummers, Vince wanted me to play lighter, let Martin go ahead and do it, and I would play the lighter. So anyways, we were doing what the Cowgirls do or whatever, one of those songs where the train beat things. And he purposely had, when it came to him, they had the crew had changed out and put raw spaghetti wrapped in electrical tape in my stick bag. So I pull out this raw spaghetti, and Vince was not really one of those kind of people. He doesn't like,
He's not time for funny games on stage.
He had 2 drummers.
Yeah.
So Martin knew that. He knew he could get away with this shit. So I pull this. He counts. I pull it out, and we're going, "These things are kind of heavy." And he goes, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I go. And I hit this thing, and fucking spaghetti goes everywhere for about 20 feet in every direction, including right on the star, you know? And he turns around, and I'm just sitting there holding these nubs. That's what, yes.
That's explaining to do.
Yes.
I used to sub a gig for Martin at the 231 Club in Lebanon. 5 hours. For $50.
Yeah.
Oh my
Martin got me my first gigs in town. I subbed for him. My very first gigs that I ever got.
You talk about
Remember he had that big, deep green.
Yep.
Was it 10 by 4, 8 by 14?
The
by
pearl.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he had a drum set that was that color.
Yeah.
That pearl drum set
Kind of
that
hard
was
about
green.
that big.
Everybody was getting those big fat
I met
snare
Martin as
drums
an
and
engineer.
cutting down their snare stands.
He was engineering out at Doc's place in little Hendersonville.
Yeah. Well, now tell me, was it Hilltop? Martin, I think, used to tell the story of an engineer out there because it was always custom sessions that were going on in there, and so there'd be these people who were just dead serious coming through there, paying their money to use the studio, and the players got hired, and they would run some sort of fart tape into the ear of only the players, and all the players would just start cracking up, you know, because they were the only ones hearing it. They wouldn't run it in the other cans for the people that had the money and were paying for the session. And so then there was that double whammy, and then, well, what's so funny? You know what I mean? Like, and it's just one of those stupid boyish things. It's like, you know, you're playing along and, you know, in the ear.
I got one to tell on you.
Uh-oh.
This is good. Martin wasn't there.
Yeah.
But Vince decided he wanted to do an acoustic show with just like a quartet,
right?
Him and a trio behind
him.
And I was asked to play cajon. And I came in and shopped with you guys, and I got one of these badass cajons. It's a great big thing, and it would give me low end and give me snare, and I could do all my stuff. And I started playing it and trying to get into it. But Martin saw a picture of me, and also the sound man. They were real tight. And I'm bending over playing this damn thing to play it. And the sound man is from Sparta, Tennessee, if you guys know where Sparta is.
Oh, yeah.
Total redneck.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah. He said, it looks like he's jacking a mule. And I didn't know this was around, you know. I walk in. I swear, right in the middle of the day, I come in and Paul yells out, "Well, if it ain't the old mule jack!" And the whole of Forks laugh.
Right.
And I go, I got nothing.
Well,
No
another
secrets.
old
No secrets around there.
another old friend who's not here tonight that could have been was Brian Owing, right? Who's been around the town forever, right? And he was playing with Delbert at the time, and Delbert at the time was hard on drummers, And I asked this guy who was his road manager guy. I said, "Well, what is it he wants to hear?" And he goes, "I don't know. He's got this band in his head." I go, "Okay, whatever, like that." And Brian would tell me all these stories about how if the tempo, he had a cowbell with Delbert, and if the tempo wasn't right, he'd come back and he'd start banging. And Brian said, "I just turned my head trying to get through the song with it." Well, he got let go, and then he got rehired. Then he got let go, then he got rehired. And this went on. I'm saying I may be exaggerating 5 times, but it was at least 3 times or maybe or more. And it became a running joke between us, And he'd come rocking in the front door, and I go, "Hey, Brian, Delbert just called." "Yeah, I'm sorry, but I got again, yeah." But keep your hopes up. Maybe he'll call back next week.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Brian said that Tony Joe called him Fleetwood because playing with him was like a long, smooth Cadillac ride.
Yeah, I can believe that.
That's what a great
Brian is
What was the guy's name when I got to town? Was it Nashville now or Nashville? What was that out there?
Clay Care?
Clay Care.
Clay Care, and he had the Eagle kit, but he had all the snare drums sitting in the back, and they all. Did you guys all play that show? And they all
Well,
right,
he was a good client of Gary's and a good customer.
Yeah.
But he got a sonar deal of all things. Remember that?
Yeah.
He had that Ludwig set with the Eagles on it.
got a sonar
That was
deal?
the one most people remember. But he had a sonar deal towards the end, and he got one of everything they had that was the most expensive.
It's
those,
it can still be a
phosphorus
friend.
bronze.
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
And tuned them. Everyone the exact same.
Yeah.
And everybody that went out there to play the show would tell me that he'd have
Same.
line up on the stand backstage.
Yeah,
and
they were
every
all
one of them
like,
would sound the same.
Wait a minute.
That's like Trey's Toms. He had 312s.
Funny.
Well, he was never meaning to hit more than one of them. So
That's right.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to do this Tom thing that Morrow played on. What do I do? Toms. I need Toms everywhere. Give me Toms. I'll tell you. So those two would bust my balls. I would go in. I don't know. I changed drums like the weather, but so they finally went to me. Would you just fucking try a Gretch kit? I'm like, I'm not trying a Gretch kit. You guys don't know what you're talking about. Gretch kit and smooth white amps. I'm like, fuck that. No way.
Way.
So hold on. So remind me of Columbus percussion. Just remind me of that, please. Okay. So I go, okay. So remember Chris Dallas, Dollar Bill?
Yeah.
So you know Chris Dallas.
I was talking today.
So when Faith, the Soul to Soul tour, I got to pick a drum tech. So they said, Dallas was that's all right.
Yeah.
Blah, blah. Anyway, we took. You said just take a 12-inch tom and any Gretsch tom in the place and just go play it. And sure as shit, right back. Which kid? I bought that freaking broadcaster kit when they first came back out again.
with the crinkle plating.
Yeah.
And that kit sounded, and the edges were all fucked up, and it was all weird, but it sounded incredible.
Yeah.
That, and then I went to Columbus Percussion somewhere. We were on tour or something, and I go, "Yeah, you guys got any smooth white, whatever?" He goes, "You must be from Nashville, right?" What do you mean? What's with you got your Nashville guys with smooth white amps?
But isn't it the truth though?
Oh,
yeah.
You know where I got this? I've been. Any would know the smooth white amps have been what I've used.
Yeah.
The whole time. But I got it from Steve Turner.
Really?
Okay.
I got it from Steve.
I remember from Mark.
I got
Another Mark
it from
thing.
Steve Turner on a sub.
Oh,
I subbed for him at House of David and played his Azure Blue AOC kit. And I went in there and played it, and he had the smooth white emperors on top and smooth white ambassadors on the bottom, and I'm like, this is just
I was thinking Larry was early on that smooth white.
He probably was, but
Yeah.
Turner was the first place I
But he was
got
also
it.
an early
And the square beater.
Square belt beater.
Yeah.
He had the old ProMark ones that were bigger than the ones they make now, and that were a little heavier.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
But man, that
And you had to pick
Before
his
Zorro
beater
got
up
hold
off the pedal board to get your foot in there to play.
on Larry's,
Larry's, yeah.
every foot pedal he ever had, he cranked as tight as he could get.
I couldn't.
Really?
I couldn't.
Yeah.
do it.
He made originally he made the beater out of banisters.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
Cut
yeah,
them up.
yeah.
Cut them up. Yeah,
Gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
that's what he used for
The
beaters.
first time I ever saw Larry, I was 13 or 14, and there was the store in Memphis called Melody Music Shop, and they were, the first kind of really catered to rock and roll, catered to the upstairs thing was all based on that. And the guy that my mom would take me there on Saturdays, just leave me. And so I made friends with all these guys. The drum salesman was a guy named Rick Rayford, and he really was kind to me. And he kept telling me, man, we're going to do a drum clinic. I'm like,
What's that?
so we're going to work on drums? No. It's not working on drums. They're not sick drums. It's just guys coming to play. It's like you're gonna see this guy play. His name's Larry London, and I'm like, I blew his, and he just said, you're gonna be here that day anyway because it's a Saturday. So it was like that for me at the time.
Wow.
Anyway, so we go upstairs, and I see this kit set up, and it was the pearl wood fiberglass. It was his Blue Oyster, his Blue Oyster kit, that wood fiber. When they were just coming out with that very first foray into pro line pearl stuff, they got him, and that was going to be the thing. And I'm like, wow. And Rick took me behind there. He said, man, you got to look at these pedals. And I went back there, and he said, try to push on it. And at 14, I couldn't know. And they were Rogers Swivel-matic pedals.
Oh, yeah.
Because you could pull that thing all the way back and then tighten the spring all the way up and hit literally at rest the beater touched the footboard.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what those P900 pearls were copied after.
Yeah, exactly.
And once you hit the beater and you got it on because I did this, I got it to hit the bass drum, but then I relaxed and let it come back. I broke my foot. It's unbelievable.
Anyway, I'd never heard of Larry
I used
London.
to say if you wanted to play a dotted note, you had to think about it about a week ahead.
I had never heard of him, and I couldn't have told you really at that time in my life any identifiable song that. But man, they walk him in first of all, and he wasn't a very tall guy.
No.
But man, his girth was intimidating. And he was still still the real cream hair version of Larry and the huge Hawaiian shirt, and I'm like,
What is
I'm
this?
just going, I just don't know what's fixing to happen here. And man, he sat down and beat that drum set just into sawdust. I mean, it was stunning how much impact. I mean, it was just a violent encounter.
But it wasn't coming from back here.
I love that story because
compressed.
I love that story because I have a similar story, and I always thought because maybe I was young, maybe I was just thinking of it. I'm remembering it wrong, but it was like a Zildjian day in Boston. I'm a kid. I'm like 17. It's 1983, 84. It's a Zildjian day. It's Gadd. All the guys are there. Steve Smith was there, right? Ralph McDonald's playing with Gadd. So they do their thing, and they're going to bring out this guy, Larry London. I don't know who that is. I never heard. And they roll out this big red kit, double bass drum kit. Right? And I still don't know who this guy is, but as they're rolling it out, I look at this little performance center. I look over, and in the wings, Gadd, Steve Smith, everybody's in the wings, like doing this. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I've never heard of this guy. I'm a kid. He comes out in the Hawaiian shirt. I'm glad you said that. Sits down. I don't know what to expect, and just lays into his double bass. It just comes out of the box, crushing, and I just couldn't believe it. My brain just couldn't get around that. I'd never seen this guy in my life, and he just
self-marketers too.
Blew the doors out
with the whole white shirt and the palm tree.
Oh man, it was.
He was on that game long.
It was
a lot of people.
Larry and I used to.
It was amazing.
I had a gig down in Printers Alley at the Hugh X. Lewis Club, and Larry was at the Carousel. And we used to have breakfast every night after the gig. And Larry was really a mentor to me. And I remember when I was coming up, and I would be asking about what you do in sessions, and there's things that had happened weren't going well. And one of the things he said, Jerry, let me tell you something. He says, when you play, you need to drill him a new asshole. And he says
touching
when
words.
when you get lost, when you screw up in a fill, you play it so strong that they're going to think that you meant to do that,
That's
and
amazing.
you're going to be fine.
The thing about Larry was he didn't want anyone to ever let them question whether you were the time or not.
Exactly.
He would not take
Yeah.
being questioned about that.
What do you mean?
If he thought the take was good, he'd put the sticks down.
Yeah.
And yes, that's the take, and
did that to
you
us.
fix what you need. But he didn't suffer fools at all. And I mean, you know, in his mind, our chair is the pocket and the field and the time and all of that stuff. And if anyone's fighting, it ain't us. They're fighting us.
You mean it's acoustic guitar? Like
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not real sure what it is. But
I don't know.
I think Buddy Harmon, didn't he make a statement one time when he and Bob Moore used to have a discrepancy and they were talking about where's one, and Buddy said, I am one.
yes.
That's funny.
That
I remember
was
Rodney
great.
telling me a story about them putting Larry London in a top bunk on a bus.
Oh,
He said it
boy.
lasted about 2 days. Hank
wouldn't
DeVito
wanna be
said,
in
"You can
there."
have my bunk. You can have my bunk." Because I had to help him.
Oh my! It was a great Austin City Limits performance of that band that you can
Oh,
see. And
man.
it's
Yeah,
that's
just-
cool.
He's killer, man.
Vince still has that kit.
Yes,
The Red
he
Cherry
does.
Bombs kit.
Yeah, I think he does.
Yeah, he used to be in the
Sitting
back
up
of the old
high
DOG
and-
when I used to go
yeah,
down
sound
there
check.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Still sitting over there.
When the
Who's got
flood,
it?
Vince does. When
Oh,
the
yeah,
when
yeah,
the
yeah.
when the flood happened, I worked on that kit.
Really?
Yeah, because I remember pulling out
It
the
got
cases,
damaged.
and I was like, it was fine. It was fiberglass, I think.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
fine, but I remember pulling it out and going, oh, but I was like, oh shit, this is it.
Larry
Wow.
had a few kits that were.
The cherry bomb kit, is that the one?
I
you call
believe
the
so.
Cherry bomb
Yeah,
kit?
yeah, with
Bomb.
Rodney. Yeah.
Larry had some
Michael
kits
Rose.
that he just stripped the covering off of the fiberglass shells and played them.
Yeah.
like
Yeah, he
Yes.
did.
Which were
some,
very
I
cool.
think an old Blaymire, and
Yeah.
then he
Yeah.
had some pearls like that.
So Keio,
The kit at Hummingbird was a kit that Larry had given
Yeah,
them
yeah.
with no.
There's a Tom
remember
at,
that
at Forks now that's up on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
raw Tom.
okay, kiddo, you're the kid, so you tell us. You're what are you like 22?
Yes.
All right, so tell us
Yes, exactly right.
I'm 22. Yes.
your entry into Mr. Forkum.
Oh, you know, it's a funny story. I'm still kind of dumb, but
Well, we're drummers.
yeah, I'm a dumber. But you know, I saw that there was this drum shop, and I didn't have a GPS at the time because I was poor and stupid. And this was in 2001. Yeah.
We were over in
Gretch, personal.
You-
I don't know.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
guys were over at was it Wedgwood? Yeah, and I remember just driving to Kentucky from where I was living.
Wow.
And I was-
Where were wait,
You should have called.
Yeah, I should have called. I did call. I called, and Jenny answered the phone and gave me
You called from
directions.
Kentucky.
Jenny?
Oh my God.
But I remember coming in,
Bless
and it
your
was
heart.
and it was fun. I can't remember if you were there or not that day, but I do remember over the years us getting to know each other, and I met all of you guys
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
at
Oh,
Forks.
absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
The greatest advice of my life came from Greg Morrow here. I forget what year this is, but I was pissed about a gig, you know, as people do. And he just said, "Hey man, can't be where you ain't wanted." And you know what?
It's by God true.
It's the truth. And I applied to every part of my life. Like my girlfriends, my kid, you know, like all of it. I'm just, you know?
I am what I am.
Yeah, you know,
exactly right.
But the stuff I remember, the lovely stuff I remember about Gary. I mean, you're still here, but you know, when we would go to your office and just laugh about
Yeah.
the most random shit.
The
I mean,
office.
just-
The real
Wow, the
Yeah.
real
we
office.
had some,
Yeah.
yeah, we had some good laughs. We had some good drinks there.
Cries.
You know, had some serious conversations.
And you always had time for us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly
yeah,
right.
yeah. I mean, I would, you know, we just sometimes just like sit there and
You
wait.
guys were the reason that we were there. I mean,
The
that's
only reason I think the
really-
door was ever
really
closed was when you didn't want us to fuck up a business meeting.
Which, by the way, which, by the way, I didn't have any problems doing. I'd go, what's up, big guy? You know,
That door would be closed. You knew
you
he
give
was-
me the look. All right.
We had Angelo from LP there one time. Angelo had been there at LP for a long, long time, and he was in there, and we were doing an order and talking about displays and stuff. And Melissa knocks on the door and said, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Steve Winwood would like to have a word with you. And Angela's like, what? Steve, what? What'd you say?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And he gets up and goes and gurms Steve Winwood for about 10 minutes and gets a picture taken and gets an autograph and everything.
Yeah. My story about Steve Winwood, you were probably there. They had just done the Traffic reunion. They were going to play out at Starwood.
Right. Yeah.
And they were, so Jim Capaldi
was there too.
Walfredo Reyes Jr. And Steve Winwood all came in the store. And Steve had been in a couple of times, and he'd go over there and play around the percussion area and everything. And so we had those little kids' drum sets by the front door, you know, and little junior sets. Yeah. And so I hear a little groove start up on the congas, you know, and it's Walfredo. He's over there playing congas, and Steve's got some sticks, and he starts playing some timbales and everything. And some of the younger people in the shop are kind of like, and I'm like, you better ease up right now. Royalty is in here right now. And you better recognize. And then Capaldi got down on that little bitty drum set.
And played it.
And they started jamming what seemed like 15 minutes, probably 5 minutes or whatever. They got on some sort of salsa groove, you know, and that's one of those memories I think, I watched Jim Capaldi sit behind this tiny little drum set like nothing, you know, and you know, half the world doesn't even understand what I'm so excited about.
Half the world.
I said the only other person that could have walked in would have been Keith Richards or Eric Clapton that might have trumped them at this time. You know?
Winwood came
tell
in.
your wife, and she says, "Yeah, take out the garbage."
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So
Winwood
George,
came
that
in.
Capaldi guy you were telling me about?
Winwood came in and he said, Melissa and I said, hey, we're going to see you at the Ryman on Thursday night or whatever. And he goes, no booing.
Yeah, he still has a locker at SR, and he hadn't been in it in a while, but he's just a sweetheart of a guy. Yeah. And that's the great thing in this business, when those people like that you encounter and you think, well, nobody could ever be more successful than this person in this business.
Right.
And he's just true blue, grounded, and you know, at least that's what I get from him.
Is that picture of Billy playing with Steve Gadd and Steve Jordan looking at you from the side of the stage? If I would have known that fucking picture was taken.
That show that this
luckily
man did
I was looking
with,
this way
with Sting.
Yeah.
And that's
with who? A
that's
guy
a
named
world-class
Sting.
player right
Yeah.
there.
All that shit you guys know.
Yeah,
you don't look at it, you try to pay attention.
Yeah, that was
I'm
great.
doing
That
my
was
thing,
great.
please. You know?
That
They're
was
standing over there looking at you like this.
That was very. I got to tell
all
you
that
my
was.
Melissa and famous drummer story here. So this guy gets out of the taxi cab and he walks up to the counter and Alan's there and he's kind of doing this and he's like I need to close.
Wow. Oh.
Hey, man.
That's a blast.
No,
That's a blast from the past.
So he asked Alan for a change for a $100 bill, and so Alan gives him 520s, and Alan's already nervous about it anyway. And then the guy goes back out and comes in again, goes, I need change for a 20. So Alan thinks he's trying to pull money scam on or something. So he gets nervous and he goes and tells Melissa, I'm gonna go get Gary. Wash the front. So I'm in the back doing a repair, and she comes back there and she goes, there's this weird guy out there. He's jerking and carrying on and acting crazy. You need to get down here. And I'm like, I'm doing a repair for this guy. I'll be down in just a second. Just watch him. So she makes 2 or 3 trips up there, nagging me, fussing at me to come down there. Finally, I go down there and I go, oh, hey, Joey Kramer, how are you? Welcome to the And he buys 3 or 4 old snare drums, you know, and spends some time in there. But she was ready to throw his ass out.
Oh my God!
And so,
great.
And she goes, well, he needed to act right.
Was he being ugly?
he was being ugly.
That was Melissa's, I think. Whenever we start bickering each other, the employees, she was, are y'all being ugly?
So Jordan got snowed in from New York. Couldn't get to New York. Remember this?
You were standing there with me when he and Willie Weeks walked in, right?
No, I wasn't. I was at my house on Cedar over there. Remember that? And you said, Jordan's here. Get down here right now. Because I've always wanted to meet Steve Jordan, because I like Steve Jordan. So you went over and introduced me to Steve Jordan. You're like, hey, and I'm like, hey, do you remember Neil Young? You played with Neil Young on Saturday Night Live. You had that final had a big M on it. What was that symbol? And he goes, what? And he goes, I go, 1985 Neil Young, Rockin' in a Free World, get a minor symbol, big M on it. He goes, and Gary's just pulling me back. He goes, no, man, I never did that. Gary just went, go to the office. Go to the office, get a cocktail. Thanks, Gary.
That's funny.
No, I was kind of in awe when Jordan came in that time. He and Willie Weeks were standing there and they were looking at
super cool.
Slingerland.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
How many times?
Melissa asked him. I don't know if you guys saw this concert when Jordan played with James Taylor. James would introduce him and he'd say, "Only guy in the band that doesn't have a driver's license," because he lived in New York.
Right,
and he
right.
didn't. And she said something to Steve about it. He goes, "You know what? He shamed me. I went and got a driver's license after that."
That's cool. So talk about how many times you had people coming in there. How many times you had people from other countries, like Japanese investors and stuff, wanting to freaking take your shop.
There was it was a few times they wanted to buy the Slingerlands.
Yeah, that's
but
what
they wanted just the Mardi
cherry
Gras.
pick. Seemed like every
they
damn
wanted
show
to
when there
cherry
was
pick it.
any sort of trade show.
Yeah. So a few times we had people do that.
Well, Elliot Thoroughbred tried to buy you out really early.
He did.
Thoroughbred did?
Wow.
Really?
Oh, wow.
He's passed, so we can talk about him. But
They I knew they were coming to town because Mars was already there.
Yeah, they went out
Thoroughbred
to
was coming.
Rivergate, where Sam Ash is.
And they what was the guy, the drum guy? Not his initials. TJ.
Oh, TJ.
Yeah.
Right.
TJ.
No.
He started his own
TJ,
shop
It might have
later.
been TJ.
No, AJ.
AJ.
Thoroughbred was AJ.
Yeah.
So AJ called and says, "So did you hear about us?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, what do you think about it?" I said, "I wish you'd keep your ass down in Florida," is what I think. He kind of laughed. He goes, "Well, Elliot and some of the guys, management team, are going to be out at the new location. Why don't you go out there and talk to them? Maybe we can join forces somehow." And I'm like, "All right." So I go out there, and they're all, they're this business, this suit kind of feel about it, and they start telling me how small guys like you are going to have a really hard time. Mars is already here. We're coming. Guitar Center's coming, and
what a great way to build you
might ought to
up.
think about.
Hey, what a great.
And what a big plate of crow to eat.
Yeah.
You're gonna suck it.
And he said, we'll, give us kind of an inventory, and we'll buy you out, and you can come work for us. And if you have one of your manager or one of your employees you want to bring with you, you can do that. And
what a sport!
And I turned around and headed home back to the office. I called my banker, and I didn't own the building at the time. I said, "You got to get me in this building. I got to buy this building. I have to be in control of my destiny. I can't be renting and somebody say, you got to get out of here in 90 days or something."
Left for just a business.
So it hit that meeting was really important in how it fired me up about.
You read it the right way, though.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And maybe
they went by the wayside.
Yeah,
and that was that. And he started D-Drum, and that was that.
But it was kind of scary there for having two stores
What
like
year
that
are you
come
talking
into
about,
town.
Gary? What year was that?
97,
right? 97, 98?
Yeah, because I think I bought the building in 98.
Yeah. So can I ask you this?
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know who are gonna, if somebody sees this on YouTube or something, you freaking play your ass off.
No.
You're not only a great drummer,
good
you
player.
sing.
Great
sing well,
singer.
too.
No.
So does Paul.
Thank
so
you. Paul and I we're a good drummer together.
No, you're right. So people sometimes think that why do music critics become music critics? Because they could never play or they couldn't be whatever, right? But you actually can play, so can you.
Thank you.
So you're one of my favorite. You guys are my
Yeah, you
favorite.
invited us, my wife and my family out
Yeah,
to your
you
farm.
came out to Fork Fest.
Really?
You
So
guys
you're still
played,
inviting
it
people,
was-
huh?
Yes.
So
it
what? I
was
take my
awesome.
shirt
Really
off
good,
3
right?
times and now I'm going to get invited anymore? So I hit on your daughter and you fucking crush me? Make me move to Indiana?
Well,
What the hell?
I think it
Does
was
he need to be
important.
cut off?
Yeah,
You know,
because it was.
What? I don't understand.
Have you noticed that collection of balls around here?
I think it was important that everybody that worked there played drums. Obviously, my wife didn't, but she was there for the bookkeeping, and she really learned a lot about the gear and.
And she knew her
She knew all the drum head numbers and all the.
She
but
took us all in like misfit kids.
it was.
It was fun to talk to him too.
Hey, do you have any regrets?
About
about the shop? No, I'm
Besides
being
Paul.
serious. That's
Besides Paul.
Well,
Still
I remember. No, I mean, I don't know about the
Paulie
rest
and I
of you
were
guys.
there when it was just me and Paulie.
That's true.
But
You
there
know,
was
so
I
it's,
remember there's a couple heavy things in my life in this town. A few actually. You called me because I was up in Indiana. I was right by Fort Wayne when Tommy passed, and he called me to tell me that.
Yep.
Which that really was devastating. When you got sick, when they did your thing, and
that.
Melissa called me. Melissa called me. She goes, "You need to come to the shop right now." And I said, "Okay." And Melissa never called me to come to the shop, so I thought. First off, I thought, well, hey,
what's going on?
Gary, give me something. How arrogant am I, right? and then she caught me at the door and she goes, please, just when you see Gary, dude, you look like death. No offense,
Don't
but
make
you knew
fun.
that.
My dad took care of that. He said
But-
that to me.
but,
he came in one day and said, "Son, you look older than me."
Only because I love you, and and we were very close. That's why I say that. What was
I
my point?
appreciate it.
Did I have
It
a point
was-
with this?
Columbus Pro Percussion.
But that's why the regret thing isn't. But when man, I remember you always talking to me, and sometimes you would even show me like what businessmen would show you, like this is, and you kept saying to me, and you would never tell me that, which was really cool. You were always like, "There's a number I want in my head," and you never would say it to me. And then one day you looked at me and you said, "I got that number, and I'm out of here." And I'm like, man,
Well,
I thought
it was-
and that.
It was
That was a
mainly-
harsh reality.
That was
Yeah.
It was.
It's
Well,
still.
Melissa and I could have worked another
we still
20
talk
years
about
and not
this.
made the money that
No,
we
and
made
that
off
Right.
that
opportunity could
building.
have passed.
Right, right.
No, you did the right.
And they weren't going away. I turned them down
Right.
many times.
Yeah.
I
And
even
it was
remodeled.
harder and harder to
Remember
run
that?
a
No,
That's
we're
right.
not.
Yeah.
We're not. I'm not.
No.
Dude, you did
No,
it right.
You
And
did the
where you
absolute
were
right
was
thing.
getting harder and harder to run a business.
Yep. Yes,
Sure.
Really, with all the
From
chicks
everything
out there
from
and all the
taxes
little
to
shorts.
on
And,
That's
Yeah,
why I
but
used to come to
parking
Forks
and
all the
all
time. I came for the chicks outside.
I mean, in Ganaway, we used to say, how much longer is he going to survive in Disneyland?
Yeah.
That's what
man.
they did.
You
They
know
got
what? I
crazy.
got to say, in that regard, these guys really have kept so much of that spirit
Absolutely.
at the new shop.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yep.
Yeah, you
You
know,
guys have done a great job.
Yeah, you guys done
I'm
good.
proud of the place when I walk in there because you guys are doing what we do.
Yeah,
We're using
and-
every inch
and
of
it
space.
has slowly but surely
And
morphed into what it
keeping
was
it-
on
Yes.
12th Avenue
it
to
took.
me.
It took
you
a
know?
little bit of time.
Yeah,
Well, it's
there
an
was a little
adjustment
bit-
for
little
sure.
bumps up front, but that's to
We
be
finally got a
expected.
tip jar for the drinks, which is cool.
Yeah.
Well, the
I was
schools in
going
the front,
to talk about. We hadn't talked about Clay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right.
I thought he might
And
be
you were
right.
talking about that you always had
Where
it
is that?
when you get dropped off at the drum shop when you were a kid. Well, that was Clay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was from Paducah, and his mom would come to town probably to go to the mall or whatever. And
Antiquing.
he was 14, 15 years old, and she would drop him off, and he loved Campbell soup. He had Campbell soup shirts,
Oh,
Campbell
my
soup
God.
hats, everything. He was Campbell soup kid, right? And he would come in there, and he would look at me and go, "Hey, how long it take you to get your hair that long?" Yeah, I don't forget that now. He's grown and married and got kids. And,
And clay surfing.
That's
that's
awesome.
it. Oh, clay surfing. Oh,
Yes,
God.
on
you-
Saturdays, clay surfing.
All right, Matt Green, who worked there. And
Speaking
he
of
was,
hair,
he was a no-nonsense, or still is a no-nonsense guy who, fun guy, but especially with Clay, Clay would pick at him and go, oh yeah, what are you going to do? Well, I kind of whatever. And then sometimes Matt would just stomp his foot at him and Clay take off running across the shop, whatever. But we had this thing where we called it clay surfing. And Matt would tackle him to the ground, and Clay would be giggling like a schoolgirl, wiggling around the ground. And the idea was to suspend yourself with your hands and your feet in the air as you were body surfing for a moment in time on top of him without falling off while he's giggling and rolling around the floor. And that became known as clay surfing.
We did that.
Did a lot.
wow, wow, I never heard that one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Surprised you
I
didn't
still
know it.
threaten him with it every night.
I mean, so the question I have for you is just, Gary, like, since we've all been here for many years, how does it feel to know that like you are responsible for helping all of our careers?
Good question. That's a good
Be
question.
Oh my gosh.
Too much weight?
I don't take credit for that because you guys are all really great players and
No.
you would have all done well.
So when you put
If
the
we-
thing together, were you thinking about helping people? Or
I
were
was
you thinking about
I really
a retail
because
store?
because there were other stores in town at the time that would not discount. I mean, you had to have
Without
a
a union
you had to have a union
Right.
card,
Yeah,
and you
you
got
got
10%
10%.
off.
Wow. Really?
And people were going to Manny's and Chuck Levin's and Atlanta Pro. And I thought a town like Nashville, the people should not be shopping out of town. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The-
It was getting way more competitive.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
made sure you were close to the road.
Yep. Yeah, we were lucky with that, and
Yeah.
you know, all those studios were popping up in Berry Hill, and,
But you had one thing I've learned about you over the years that is different than me, and it's the thing that was the catalyst for Forks Drum Closet. You
He's
are
nice.
a true entrepreneur.
Yes.
And
Well-
the way I know that beyond Forks Drum Closet is that's also true with the Midnight Riders. That band would have fallen apart a long time ago if it hadn't been for you.
I need to get off my ass and get us going again.
Well, I play whenever the phone rings myself. I love it. No, I'm just saying it's that entrepreneurial spirit that I don't have, you know. But it's the thing that drives you through all those things, and like seeing that, like your insurance guy telling you, oh, you can make that. And a lot of people live in the fear of, I don't want to take that chance. And it's like your wife going, what's stopping you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of times we can't get out of our own way, but I think you've always been good about that, to the point where you and Jeff going and buying a piano and you riding back with it in the back of a pickup truck that you bought for $50 when you were kids. And Jeff was probably telling you, I don't know if we need to do this tonight. And you're like, it'll be fine. I'll ride in the back with it. And he's sitting in the back of the piano.
We need this.
Playing the piano in the back of the pickup truck. They went and bought it.
Wow.
You know, don't tell this man he can't do something.
Well, how many times would you walk in the Forks and there'd be something different? You know, all of a sudden the back room had changed.
That's what motivated me.
And then the
times.
warehouse in the back now has got kits piled up in it. You know?
Because if I would see an
constantly
area
changing.
that wasn't generating money or that looked bad or that just wasn't happening, we got to do something here.
Yeah,
Right?
it was
The
amazing.
snare drum room.
And my
was
favorite
one
thing
of the
is
things.
Gary's saying was, if we hadn't dusted like we should, he'd say, you could grow tomatoes over here.
I mean, also, when you go there, he would work with you. Whatever you wanted to get, there was always the relationship was, what can we do to help you get what you need to do?
It's amazing that kind of confidence that they gave everybody, or like I'm just nobody from wherever I came from, and on my first day walking in, it's crazy.
You and I had the same color drum kit, that habanero sparkle.
Yes,
So,
yes.
Funny story, and I think you may or may not remember this, but Pasek was here, and I was a big Manu Cache fan. I fucking love Manu, right?
Yeah.
And he played this habanero sparkle kit, and it had his name etched in the badges, and I was a Yamaha guy at the time. You know, against my better judgment now. But anyway,
I want that kit.
I want that kit.
And I had already spoken for it from the booth.
He'd already bought it.
Yeah.
And Gary sold it to me for what he paid for it, which I thought was really, really cool.
You need that kit. You needed that kit.
And I did. I played that kit on I played the kit with Rodney.
I couldn't stand to lose a deal. I'm sure I lost money on. I couldn't stand for somebody to walk away and not.
And if you said it once, you said it a million times over the years. You say, "Well, I might not make money off of them today."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, but they'll come back.
Yeah.
But 30 years later, I'm still making money off of them.
Thing too,
You know what I mean?
Those are relationships.
Yeah, I mean, Nashville too, where you have all these pro guys with endorsement deals. They're still spending money. They still. He's like, well, I gotta go buy. I gotta go to Forks. I gotta go buy something.
Go buy a Craviotto or
you go buy. You know,
Ludwig snare drum or something.
Yeah, it was like,
and that became the argument for all the companies when they quit running the endorsees through the stores, and that was the thing he would try to beat into their brain. It's like, dude, I can't stop you from selling something direct to somebody, but you're taking them out of my store. They might buy something else when they're in here. Even though you've taken that out of my pocket.
Ship it here to us and let us call it and say it's here.
Yeah.
And the ones that did that and said, okay, well, they're still going to buy from you and you're going to give them an extra 10% or whatever, and we're going to cut it back or whatever the deal was, those were the ones that we had the best relationships with, I thought.
I bought my Mapex kit from you with Hibbs back in the day. I was feeling that crazy guy.
Oh, Hibbs, man.
That Slingerland kit you saw me playing, that's him.
Oh,
right
really?
there, that white Slingerland kit. That was Gary's departure gift.
We had a customer. I have to stand up to do this.
Uh-oh.
Are you okay, old man? You need a cane?
I can't remember his last name.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I can't
But
remember
he
his
would
last
come in
name.
and he'd
Look how
go,
good he looks.
Gary, what's my price on this? I've already talked to Paul, but I need my price on
He'd
that.
asked me already 10 times. It was the best
I
part.
told Paul to give you the very best deal we got. I said, he gave you the best deal. Paul's authorized to do that. He gave you the best deal. He goes, okay. And he turn around and he'd pull his money out of his pocket.
Oh my gosh!
Pull it out like that. All right.
He pulled out the exact amount
Every
and
time he'd do
count it
that.
out, put it on the counter. But he didn't want you to see what was in that wallet. And
Old stuff right there, buddy.
Who was it?
Man.
Was it Ken Sanders?
No. He was just kind of a nervous guy anyway, you know, and he was always kind of one of those guys that walked in and was looking around.
He'd have a wad of cash and he'd
Wow.
but he had
And
to do
everything
it
was all
behind his
cash.
back.
You know, no tax right. No tax right. Yo.
Oh man, I remember you kicking John out of your.
I was just thinking about him.
Keio, have another shot.
Oh, we ran out of tape.
I didn't know whether to go there. Or not.
Man, that was my favorite.
You remember his fez?
We tried our best to be nice to that
You
guy.
did.
Oh,
You really did.
Yeah.
And it just got to the point where
It got bad.
get out.
Yeah.
That thing was
Yeah.
He wound up pulling some
really not cool stuff.
not cool stuff.
But
he had a girlfriend that would come in and buy him stuff, and I would take her aside and say, "You don't have to do this. You don't do this. You know, don't let him take advantage of you.
Yeah.
Don't do this."
Remember when he had for a minute there, he had that maybe in the early days of social media or something, but he had a van that he had that plastic wrap put on it. It was like a marryme.com or something like that. And
Oh my God!
we were just like, okay.
oh yeah,
I just can't wait to see who you attract with this.
I have a photo of it somewhere. I'll find it.
I want to see that.
It's
He was in the front row. Of one
He
of
got
the
himself
shows.
on TV.
Yes.
At a Red Sox game.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Did you know about that?
Yeah, he moved.
He was
back
from Worcester.
Worcester. Yeah.
Worcester.
Worcester, yeah.
Worcester.
He used to come in the shop wearing a fez.
Yeah.
And he had this long braid down his back, but it wasn't his hair.
Yeah.
It was just like a hair extension, and all he did was he just stuck it up under the fez, and it would eventually kind of work its way around the side. You know?
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
That's great.
But yeah. Oh my.
He was not RMD.
As my grandma would say, bless his heart.
Yeah, right. Bless his little heart.
Well, I think Paul, you said that. Is it Mitch Mitchell that called? Asking about him or something?
No, I had a guy from England.
Oh,
there
yeah,
was a
yeah.
guy named Roger who
That's
would
right,
call,
Roger,
and we had an 800 line once again before the internet or anything.
1-800-55-FORKS.
And he
Yeah.
he would call and he was Roger from over in the UK. And
From the UK.
he was just wondering if you had any Rogers snare drums on hand. And I went, well, I said we have a couple, but they don't belong to us. They're on consignment. He goes, they wouldn't belong to a John would they? And I went, as actually they do. He goes, I wouldn't be interested. Thank you for your time. Hung up the phone.
And it was Roger Taylor from Queen, wasn't it?
It might have been.
Oh
I
my
don't know,
God.
but
We
I
talked to
just
him for
know
a long
that
time before we knew
the
who it
idea
was.
that he transcends oceans.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Checking on snare drums.
This guy
Yeah.
Roger would call. Hello, Roger, calling from the UK.
Yeah.
And finally one day, I think he told Matt who he was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
had no
remember.
idea.
Wow.
The first time they came through Memphis when I was working with Big Dave,
Yeah.
he came in the drum shop and we had some old Leedy snare drums in there. And it was their first, they were opening for Mott the Hoople. This was 1974. Queen 2 had just come out. And he came into the shop and he got all enamored with this old Leedy snare drum. And Dave, he asked how much it Dave. Dave said, I could let it go for $75. And literally he just went. He didn't have $75 to buy that. He said, if I pay $75 for that snare drum, it's all of my meal money.
Wow.
They were nobody.
Yeah, I mean, it was that early in their
They
thing.
were probably getting paid $500 for the whole band for a show.
So what about? So I went to. I was
that?
out in Seattle and I went to Don's place, Bennett's place, right?
Yeah.
He had a big box of Speed Kings, and I go, "What's that big box of Speed Kings for?" And he goes, "Charlie's coming through in about 6 months." Charlie Watts. Oh, why? He goes, he knows that you can tighten them and loosen them, but it's all about feel for him. So he buys he'll buy any
Find
Speed
the one that
King.
feels right.
It just feels right. So Charlie didn't care. He
didn't want to adjust it.
didn't want to adjust it.
But in my experience, I never thought the adjustment did a whole lot.
I didn't either.
Did anybody else? I messed with it and thought, well, it felt good out of the box. Like I said,
it was pretty.
I mean, it was what it was, right?
Figured if it wasn't fast enough, it was me, and it wasn't the pedal.
Right.
Did Charlie ever come? Did Charlie?
Look at me first.
No.
Before.
I thought it had to be
Charlie
the
never
Speed
did?
King.
Somebody
Gotta get
called
that.
for him one time, and he was playing Gretches, and he wanted to buy some more of that terrible techwear hardware.
Oh my God! Oh yeah, because he's
And
like
so
that.
we called Gretch,
Yeah.
and they said, "Yeah, well, you can place the order. It'll be 6 weeks."
He said they wanted them overnight.
Yeah, they wanted them next day.
And I said, he said, first thing I said, well, yeah, we show them, we got them in stock and all this stuff. And they had this thing, no matter what something was in stock, that they had 90 to 120 days to ship some out the door. And he goes, okay, at the end of the conversation, he goes, so I have you down here, we'll get 12 of them. Because I think that was what they had in stock, and the guy for the Stones went, we'll buy them all, right, you know? And which was its own brain teaser or whatever, you know, and he says, okay, so they'll be scheduled to go out the door next day air about 90 to 120 days from now. And I was like,
overnight.
That's like fun. And I got on the phone
but
and
unfortunately,
No.
But unfortunately, you kind of expected these things from Gretch.
Was that Charlie Roy era? That's
No,
when
that
that
was-
techwear
well,
came out, though, wasn't it? Charlie
Well,
Roy?
but they still had some of it. Yeah, this was
Oh.
later. This was after Big Dave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because if
It
he'd
was
have been there, he'd
It'd
have
have been gone.
Yeah,
He'd
they
have
didn't
had
really
it.
have.
They
Well,
didn't
they
even
had
have
that
a
hardware,
guide
but they
at that
weren't
time.
selling it. Nobody was buying. Because we'd order the drum sets without spurs on them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because all they had was those big
Right.
long poles. That
That's
went
right.
in.
When I started working retail with you guys, when you guys would let me come and let you, you said, hey, whatever Gretsch kit you sell, it's cool. Here's what they pay for it, but they pay for it up front.
Yeah.
You tell them you don't know when it's going to come in, and whatever comes in, that's what they get.
Yeah.
Remember that?
We had
And I'm like,
to. We
Yeah,
had
yeah.
we had
Well,
to
there was a
explain
period
to
of
them.
time where they couldn't. But EPA, something happened to them where they couldn't spray
Couldn't-
big drums
couldn't
like
do
bass
bass
drums.
drums, yeah.
So you couldn't get a lacquered bass drum.
Mark,
What?
what was that little guy? Mark. Mike Carter's friend. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Hey, Gary.
Yeah. He. Well, and that's
So
the
I
only
used to
time.
say he was this guy. I can't
wait,
remember his last
hey,
name. But he
was
go,
it
he
Keio?
start off. He go,
He's right there.
He go, hey, Paul.
No,
how
that
you
was
doing
the.
today?
Sorry,
You doing
Keio.
okay? Yeah. No, really. Let's get good. And he would go continually higher as the conversation went on.
But that was the only time I can ever remember telling somebody you got to pay for half of it up front. It's going to take 6 months, and when it comes in, if there's something wrong with it, you still got to take it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And
It was literally that way, though.
yeah,
And he was the kind of guy that would have blown his mind probably on top of that. But,
How do you not notice when you're putting badges on a drum that one of them just doesn't look like the other? I mean, radically
which
so.
one of these things is
one's a
not
clip
like
corner, one's a stop sign.
I mean, when you got like Millsap and Ray Charles working there,
I just
The cleaning lady on Mondays, yeah. Drums on Wednesdays.
Yeah, probably not too far from the truth back then.
Literally back in those days, there were piles of drums in the place.
oh yeah.
It hadn't been organized. There were no shelves or anything in there. It was just
I have some Polaroid pictures
of that era.
from like 1978
Oh yeah.
Boonville.
Oh yeah. Back you and Big Dave.
We
went up
drove
there, didn't
over
you?
there,
Yeah.
and it was that, and it was little old ladies with beehive hairdos,
Really?
and I mean, it was everything was coming from the same place. The
And
guitars
Gretch,
were being
when
built there,
Baldwin owned them.
the drums were being
Boonville,
built there, and
Arkansas.
they had pallets of like late 60s and early 70s Ks, just pallets
yeah,
of them
that's
that
right.
they couldn't get rid of.
That's right.
I
mean,
remember there was a guy who was your Gretch rep, but he was also a Peisty rep, and they were still Baldwin at the time. This is when I very first started working for you, if I remember correctly. And one time he came through and he left a bag full of Peisty cymbals there, and they were like 602s or something, but we weren't a dealer at the time, and he was going somewhere and he came back and got them, but I remember we all got them out of the bag and we're kind of tapping, you know, it was something we
Was
didn't
it the
see
Blue
there.
Label 602s?
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
was, you know.
I remember that guy. I
And
can't
sound
remember his
creation,
name
maybe
right
there
now.
was some sound
Hey,
creation.
why did Fred Gretsch ever talk about why he went with a 5-lug 12?
That was way before.
Yeah,
That was
way
way
before.
before.
Here's
was
the
it?
thing
Anyway.
that Fred
Getting over my head.
didn't do. He didn't change anything.
Really?
I was
didn't know
told
enough
everything
about
had
drums
to do
to-
with the fact that their bass was
change it.
jazz drummers,
Yeah.
and they were all poor, and that was just another place that they
Save
saved
2
money.
lugs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's money. That's money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
because they haven't changed anything.
No.
Like it's just, I mean,
well, since Paul Cooper's been there, and they've upgraded.
And
Can we credit Paul with getting all that together over the years? You think that's what you think was the mess to begin with?
Oh,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. He's really got it running good.
Mm-hmm. Paul's a
but
really
they
smart
also,
guy.
they also figured out the benefits of suppliers.
Yeah.
And got that straight. Because in the 70s and into the 80s, their die-cast molds would drift.
Oh. Yeah.
And you'd get them where the 14 would be a 16th over, and it would pull off the head.
Well, you know what? You know why they did the powder coating on
the broadcasters?
Broadcasters is because the chrome was all bad on
Yeah.
Really?
Well,
Yeah.
Well, remember the hoops? We ordered those USA hoops, and they'd come in boxes. Then you'd open up the box, and they'd be all wedged inside each other, and then they'd be bent right out of the box.
Yeah. We truly loved that drum, or we would have never hung through all those bad
no, it was.
And when Paul Cooper, when he told me when he first came to work there, I think he said there were 7 shops in the whole country that were selling anything.
Yeah.
Us, Memphis, Hollywood Pro Drum, maybe Columbus Pro, maybe somebody in New York.
Yeah.
But
well,
their
when I
whole
ended up
business
at that
was
Talent
like
set,
7 or
I
8
walked
drum
through your
shops.
showroom, and you had a natural Gretch sitting there, and I remember I was with Danny Flowers, and he went, that one.
Yeah.
Like that, and I didn't know enough to anything, but I looked at the price tag and went, nope, not that one. And I went to Gary and went, well, yeah, that Tam kit, I can work a deal,
it
And I was
sounds
like, well,
good.
that's with the Tam kit, but it didn't matter. I didn't know one way or the other, but this guy was an engineer, and he just immediately went, that one.
That one. I remember that.
Did you deal with Duke Kramer?
Yeah.
And that the plant manager over there, Bill Hagner.
Yep.
Was his name. He actually owned the building.
He owned the Fred
building.
Bart,
It said Hagner Musical Instrument Company.
Wow.
On the side of the building.
The one in Savannah, you mean? The one in Savannah or the one in
No, the one in Boonville.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
The one in Boonville.
I think.
But the one in Boonville was actually a much nicer building than the one in Savannah is.
Well, there's an old guy, I can't remember his name now, that Paul Cooper still talks to, that brought those old stains from Boonville.
Yeah.
And
they get those stains from Memphis.
Boonville?
Do they?
Those stains come from Memphis.
Arkansas.
Oh, it's Arkansas.
And he
up
said
in
this
the
old guy
Ozarks.
would mix his stuff up, and he tastes. He goes, "That's it. It's ready."
Wow.
I'm serious.
Don't get any ideas, Trey.
I'm liking you got to try this later.
Let's do this.
His wife calls
that's
it.
pretty
He's
good.
been tasting lacquer again. I tell you.
But all of you guys are here, and I don't know if you guys realize the impact that all of you had on why Nashville is as big as it is today.
Yeah.
All these records that y'all made and all these artists that y'all played with are what brought all these people to Nashville and all these. Nashville, the TV show.
I'm going to stop you right there for a second. It's
I'm
more.
just
It's more
telling
the,
you,
it's
you
the
guys had a big
records. The
part in it.
records. The guys who did the records.
Yeah.
Well,
It
but
wasn't the
playing,
live guys.
playing
it was the
out
records,
too.
man. That's what got me
All of
turned
that, I
on to
think,
it.
has been.
I
important.
did-
Lots of things
I
that weren't
disagree.
records, too.
I do too.
I disagree.
But
I
it's
disagree.
a collaborative effort. It's.
I don't think
I
we
think
knew.
we're all. First of all, I'll confess that I am terrible by myself. So if I don't have a good engineer, if there's not the right players, it has a lot to do with the song.
That's a
to me,
great.
it's a collaborative effort that really makes Music City unique. And what I found in my career, since I'm probably way far the oldest guy here, is that it's always been about the song, trying to be a part of the song, trying to play the way it fits, whether it's contemporary Christian music or rock or country or whatever. It's about the song, and it's just a major effort. I couldn't even have played most of my sessions if it wasn't for Cartage people.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you.
I mean,
You did SIR back
Yeah.
in their day when they were doing it.
and
right?
and every one of those guys that helped set up my kits, I was very appreciative of. I mean, I would take time, Trey, to say, "Hey guys, thanks a lot. I appreciate
in
it.
that-
You know, you're just busting your tail." So, I didn't want to interrupt what
No,
you had to say about it. But
that's in that late '80s, early '90s period when all those bands and all those big artists were going on, and like we said, Lonnie was doing 3 sessions a day, and Milton Sledge was doing all those, and you guys, and Tommy was doing tons of jingles.
Four a day was pretty common.
And I've watched some TV shows that kind of tell the history of that time period, and I'm thinking, all of you guys had a big part in it.
What it is, you can see it when new people come to town and they work with, we'll just generally say our crew, meaning in every chair, the first time, and they go, holy crap. We just did that in an hour? You got to be kidding me. When that's what makes this special. Is the ability, everybody's talents to bring that, but their willingness to just put it all right there, right now, and not make it about any single person.
Check your ego at the door.
Check your ego at the door.
There's a YouTube video running around with you, and it's something about it's Tom that shoots all the guitar player that shoots.
Oh
all
yeah,
it's a Christmas time thing, and you're overdubbing an opening drum fill or something like that. And everybody else is just sitting around waiting or whatever, and you try one, and then you talk back and you go, oh okay, like that, okay, so the next one, okay, play. So you play something, and then you go, the guy comes back and you go, oh, okay, yeah, the dumber one, okay.
And I thought, boy, does that not sum it up in a nutshell right there, And it wasn't like it was just like.
I just found out why I hadn't been working much.
I call it caveman.
I wasn't calling him dumb.
Right. I probably think a lot of you guys
I knew
felt
what you were
the same way
about,
with sessions, but like for my first session, I was with Pig Robbins, Pete Drake, Grady Martin.
Oh, wow.
Now you're
Chip
just
Young.
bragging. You're just bragging.
Goodness, man.
And who was running the click track?
Waltz. I was so nervous you'd have thought I was trying to play the Black Page. All I remember, going back what you were thinking about, the way it's the whole complete thing, is that I was hearing this phone in the phones. I said, I don't know what I've got to do to make this happen, but this is what I want to do.
Yeah,
it sounded like a record in my, and I wasn't doing anything that I couldn't teach my granddaughter to play. But I remember I had been around long enough to know that there was a couple of guys on the session, one that could really be rough on a new person. They didn't want me there anyway because it should have been Buddy Harmon. I was only brought there because the producer liked me and he was cutting a session on my wife. So they knew that, and I was, who is this guy? They wouldn't talk to me about like, well, should we double kick here? What are we gonna do there, Bob? You know, he don't care. We're used to working with. And so when the playback when it got done, I had to walk from here to that exit to go. It's old 1111 sound. Grady Martin was sitting there like that, and I knew that they said Grady could really be tough on Johnny. I hated to go by him. Finally, I just had to hear if I was okay. I walk by and Grady's like this. He never looks at me. He says, "Don't let him give you any shit, kid. You play good."
You were in.
I say that because whether it's road, whether it's whatever, these I call them building blocks in our careers, moments that give you that I think I can, a little, It was one of those deals, and it's like I just wanted to be one of the guys that made the noise on 16th Avenue. Of course, my music back then was really simple and all that, but it was that desire to be a part of something. I still get it, and I'm 70. I just turned 76.
Oh my gosh! Happy birthday, cowboy!
I haven't been in the studio in quite a few years because of dystonia, and I had to quit. But I got to tell you, whether it was a simple gospel session or something where it was really good, I never got over the feeling of a playback.
Yeah, it's great.
I missed that more than anything. The money was fine, gold records on the wall, we've all got them, and there's hit records, but it's that feeling, and I got to tell you, this is a real treat for me to be in this select group of players to talk about stuff like this. Because you guys are people that I've admired. I've always admired you we play golf together a little bit.
You don't admire that part.
Well, I'm going to tell something on John here.
Finally.
Sam Bacco. The famous Sam Bacco, who did repairs and custom things for the store for many years.
Today, as a matter of fact.
Did you?
Yeah.
And he's a great percussionist. He probably knows more about any percussion instrument than anybody I know in the world.
Agree.
But he rarely says anything nice about anybody. So I asked him one day, I said, tell me something. You've played with probably every drummer in town. Who's the best drummer that you've ever played with? And he went, John Hammond.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And he said, before him, Mark, but John, he said, because all the stuff, a lot of the stuff that I do is, a bar of 2 bars of 7/8 and then a bar of this other stuff and changing tempos and all that stuff. And he said, John nails that
And
stuff.
he could read the crap out of that.
Yeah. So coming from Sam,
Well,
that's a pretty high
it's
compliment.
a very high
Pretty high
compliment.
praise.
And then I had one little Buddy story to tell her. This is not it's when Buddy was sick and Paul Lime brought him in the store and he was trying to raise some money to pay bills. And he said, I've got Buddy's original cymbals that he played on all those records on Pretty Woman and all that stuff. And I said, man, that ought to go to somebody like McCartney or Phil Collins, or you should. He goes, I got Ringo's number.
Oh.
And he got a hold of Ringo, and we got a check in the mail for $10,000, signed by Richard Starkey and Barbara Bach.
Yeah.
What?
I remember
Awesome.
that her name was on the check because that's what brought it all home to me. It was like, well, even Ringo's
For
got
Gotta get signed off.
Do we need to wrap it up, or how we did?
For 10
We're not
grand.
wrapping it up now. Yeah, no.
Asking, I thought maybe he was coming bad news or something.
No,
Did any of you
Beer.
other guys have that same kind of feeling when you first did a session or you got that first big road gig or whatever it was where it was
Oh,
just
man,
like
I get that feeling when 50 people clap after you finish a song in a club.
Well, mine was, I came to town and one of the gigs I got was Vassar Clements, the fiddle player.
Yeah.
And
Really?
He had a wife, Millie, who was a hairdresser turned manager. So that speaks volume in country music by itself, right?
Sounds like a
And
Fox
so-
show on Saturday nights.
They had a little publishing company, and the band was going to play on these publishing demos, and we were going to the old Acuff Rose right down there in Melrose off Franklin Road. And Charlie McCoy was going to be there.
Oh, boy.
And I'd heard the name, didn't mean much to me, but there again, had that desire to record and to hear that thing. And man, when he started playing, I thought it was going to just stop. You know what I mean? It was just like the sweetest thing coming through my phones, and it was one of those times where I really went, okay, that's the achievement right there. That's one of those guys, I may not ever be one, but that's one of those guys. And I came, later I came to realize that Eddie was one of those guys, and Glenn Worf was one of those guys, and Michael Rhodes was one. The list goes on. Greg,
Charlie
the whole
played
list.
at Tommy's thing we had, and I agree with you there.
Yeah.
It was like amazing. It was magical when he played.
Yeah, and you go, oh wow, that's that old lonesome sound that I'm so used to hearing. A harmonica, as simple as that, just blowing in the phone.
Then you were talking about the Nashville, making records and whatever. See, I think that's part of that. I won't say formula. I hate that word formula, but there's always some sort of.
But
formula.
it works.
But I think it's a desire that each one of us as drummers or guitar players or whatever that come to a particular area like Nashville or whatever. Specifically, I think Nashville, because of the songwriting and being the background and just trying to perform and let the message get there. It's not about, I played a Swiss triplet here. Did you catch that?
It's not about our ego.
Yeah.
When we're playing.
And it's that
about the
team
song.
effort where it's so weird to me that, guys, you can go into a room that's blank at 9 o'clock and you're setting up your drums at 10 o'clock, and by 10:30, you've made probably almost the track.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't happen anywhere else in the world, really.
I don't think so either.
No, one time Jimmy Stroud came in the store, and he had been out to L.A. doing some sessions on somebody out there, and he had been using JR and all these great drummers out there. But he just made the comment. He said they don't make records like we make them in Nashville. It takes a whole
I tell you
lot
something
longer
else.
to do things.
I'm the only one that's probably born here in Nashville. It took a lot of courage for all you guys to leave home to come here and jump in this thing.
Well, that's the point I was making when, just randomly going into your shop. And intimidating isn't even the word as far as moving to a town like this and trying to take a different shot at it, and walking into a place like that and having you just, take care of me and not only just sort of bring you in and be like, yeah, man, yeah, cool. Like listening to your story going, yeah, okay, I hear what you're saying. Or just validating even a stupid idea by going, all right, well, we can work on that. But we'll get this, try this. It's really amazing. It's hard to even articulate how big of a deal that is in such a daunting thing like moving to a place like this where,
And do you not, in taking that, but like Kroon said too, the impact, it just keeps, the tidal wave just keeps going, right? It's like a water, what is it when it the thing, what is that? What is it, Dan? Is it the ripple effect.
Yeah.
I'm being serious.
It's a big deal.
It's so it's so huge, right?
It's a big deal. Yeah,
it's a big deal, man.
It's hard to even.
I was 12 years old and I stayed up every night to watch if I could see Steve Jordan on Late Night with David Letterman, right? That's all I really wanted to do. I wanted to play Heisty cymbals, have them really super fucking high, and then all I wanted to do was play, these reverse dot heads that had this dot on them, and I go to Midwest Percussion and I'm like, I want this dot head. And I'm like, what, kid? What do you? My dad was in Nashville. I go to you and you're like, you took a kid, an 18-year-old kid, a kid who didn't know shit, who was so stupid. Seriously, right? You're still stupid, and you actually cared about me. And you may have not, and I really think you care about all of us, and even like the John, you care because you care enough to you care when it counts, man. Yeah. And there's not a lot of people that do that, and it's very sincere, and there's no bullshit about you, and
there's a little bit.
Well, you know what I'm talking about. But that goes. You've affected my life so much. I mean,
look, it's consistent. That's how you know it's real.
Right.
Because it's never any other way.
Sorry. Yeah.
It's consistent.
Yeah.
But Larry and Debbie were like that. Debbie had a little rougher edge to her. Mm-hmm. She would cuss you out and throw you out of the store if she didn't like that.
Yeah, I didn't get the warm and fuzzy when I went DRG like I did.
No,
that's why I would go out and see Jimmy.
They finally got to know you.
Yeah.
You get
then
that.
you were good. Yeah.
They weren't as welcoming, maybe.
Yeah.
But
get
Larry
that
was
part.
always good like that.
Larry was super nice.
Larry threw some people physically out of that store before that pissed him off. But,
Wow.
But if he had a good feeling about you, then he was super good to you. And
I just think it's amazing how you can have so many musicians in one community, and especially we're talking about drummers and that, and each one of us has a place in the sun, so to speak. We've all found something. For myself, I thank God for that, because I'm self-taught. I remember somebody talking about jingles. I'd get on these jingles and I couldn't read I was scared because I couldn't read some things. So it was one of the parts was like it was a Creedence Clearwater lick. So I went over to Jack Williams, the bass player. I said, Jack, what is that? He says, oh, it's that CCR thing. That. So I took a red pen
and wrote CCR.
Dude, that's how I learned to read that. With all the tremendous talent, there's always a place. I mean, I look at where I came from. I look at the guys because I still practice guys at 76, and that ship has sailed. I tell somebody I'm trying to build a better mousetrap, knowing full well that the mouse has been caught. I practice every day, and I work on things that mean a lot to me, but I know full well that I'm not going to get called for a session, and I wouldn't probably do it anyway because of my hand, my dystonia. But it's like to be able to sit back, because this is what some of you guys will have to look forward to later on.
Amazing hair.
It's great to look back on a cold night and reflect sometimes, because I don't know about you, but I never really thought much about my work other than did I do good, and are you happy with it, Mr. Producer, and whatever, and when's the next 10, 2, and 6, and when's the next whatever. But now that I'm older and I'm done, basically, it really is nice to reflect and sit there and think like, wow, I know this guy, there's Billy, this guy, he's played with that guy, he did this, and I got to be a small part of that machine and that deal. And I got to tell you guys, that's awesome.
Wow.
You can spend the money, you can have all the gold records, but it's this right here, where you feel like you're accepted and respected.
And it started right there.
You can't, you can't beat that.
Where
you
else
can't beat
do you get to do something that's as fun as what we do? You know, that's why we started playing music, because it was so much fun.
And the chicks.
And to get girls, exactly.
All my ex-wives and my ex-boobs.
How many ex-wives do you have now?
That doesn't matter.
I tell you, how many boobs does that equal?
A dozen.
I'm thinking the shirt's coming off pretty soon.
I'm excited. Yes.
You go.
A few years ago, when I got the Little Big Town gig, I remember Gary saying,
"You're such a bragger."
He said, he goes, it lasted 2 weeks.
But it's longer than some of them.
It's true. But I remember getting the gig, and Gary's like, "Hey man, like, congrats on the gig," and I was like, "Holy shit, man, that's cool."
He knew.
I thought that. I mean, he knew. Like, it's one thing for people to be like, "Oh yeah, man, cool, whatever." But it's fun when people keep in touch with what's going on. Like you had a handle on what was happening with people. You knew.
Paul helped me big time with that.
Yeah,
Paul remembered names and people and bands and things. I remembered what drum set they played.
And sticks. You always remember what sticks people played.
Yeah,
I always knew what sticks everybody played.
I mean, that was huge to me. To walk in.
Well, we're all proud of you guys, because when you come to town and you have any gigs and you're doing anything you could, and going down on Lower Broad and trying to make a living, and
when you do it the right way
gig.
without trying to slide in the back door and BSing your way in, man, there's been a lot of those guys that
it's
I
amazing.
personally help cut off.
Yeah,
because they think they.
That's true. Yeah,
the drumming community to me is closer and seemingly more helpful to each other than any other musicians in town. You guys know more guitar
I was going to
players
say that.
than
That's
I do.
some of the other instruments. I don't think this.
You don't
exists.
see that.
No, hey, we've all been on those sessions where there's 3 guitar players in there and see them cock them eyes.
Man.
You know, when they're.
I can't see a bunch of bass players getting together. And
Well, you know, there's.
How about steel players?
You've taken every solo today. Put on one. You know?
Call Gary.
Jonathan Kane from Journey was in the store. He has a studio in Berry Hill, and he came and bought a drum set. And he goes, "Do you play?" I said, "Yeah, I'm playing in a Allman Brothers tribute band." He goes, "I did a session with Greg Allman one time." He goes, "I was playing piano and he was playing organ." He goes, "I walked over there and he was playing, and when he saw me come up, he went and pushed all the drawbars in. And he wanted to see.
Reese Winans does the same thing.
Is that right?
Absolutely does the same thing.
Wow.
When he finishes a gig, all the drawbars go all the way up.
And Jonathan's like, "Man, I got my own organ sounds. I don't need to steal your organ sounds." But I just thought that was interesting. That kind of describes what I'm talking about there. Yeah.
Which is funny because we all share everything.
Yeah.
I mean, Greg Morrow here is one of my heroes. He knows that.
He's everybody's hero.
I told him many times. And I don't even play Remo, but I have a kit with with your setup on it. And I also remember years ago you and I did a session together with Rodney Crowell where you let me play your drums. You had to ditch out, and then I had to play your drums.
He did that for me too with Ronnie. Books and Done thing.
And one of my favorite.
I remember it. Yeah.
One of my favorite.
Sound
things
Emporium.
We're playing you finished playing, and it was time for me. It was like, all right, Tag, you're in, and I sit down behind your kit, and we play. And Pete
Coleman.
"Hey love, are you gonna hit that rock tum?" I go, "I can't reach it."
I'd love to.
Oh, that's good.
"Hey love, are you gonna play that rock tum?"
I swear I did not tell you couldn't move anymore.
You didn't.
But you told me wait. You told me I couldn't.
I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I did not.
No, you didn't say it, but I mean, honestly, I respected you enough to not do that. But it was hilarious. I was like, we were playing, and I was like,
It's just 4 drums. Come on.
I
was playing. Tommy called me to sub for Michael Martin Murphy or something like that, and I had to use his kit, and I didn't touch it. He knew I wouldn't touch it, but I accidentally put just a little thing in that 10-inch Tommy had.
Oh, Tommy.
And I knew,
Ooh.
Yeah,
Got your lighter out.
Sorry, Tom.
$15 and taped it to the Tom and smiley face under his head. Sorry, bro.
Just looking at it.
That's
now.
good.
That's funny. That's funny.
I knew I was in trouble.
For a long time, every time Tommy walked in, we would sing the HBO song that he played.
Yeah, I had to go that far every time.
That was Tommy.
That's
The
Tommy
original one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hilarious.
I know. I was a little kid, man.
He was great. He was a great guy.
Nobody else. I need to get off this drum stool for a minute.
Gary, God bless
Here's
you.
to you.
Yeah, man.
Gary.
Cheers.
Love y'all. Thank you.
40 years.
Thank you.
Yes. 40 years. Cheers.
Yeah, I can't believe that.
That's crazy.
I can't believe I'm 65 years old.
I think I remember that.
My leg was starting to
He's got it.
We did it.
Come on,
Thank you,
dude.
guys.
Very much patience.
I still want.
Right here. Oh, and by the way, the engineer said before you go, say your name on the mic so they can name everyone's voice. So
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
Oh, okay.
Don't do it. Just
Oh,
do the right
dang it.
thing.
All right,
Do the
Trey.
right thing.
Okay. Number 10, Trey.
Good Lord.
Number 9.
Number 9.
Number 9.
I like it.
John Root.
Oh gosh, it's not root. It's root. You're Jewish. It's root.
Number 8. This is Trey. It's Billy Thomas. Okay.
There you go.
Number 7, Jerry Kroon.
Number 6, Gary Forkum.
At number 5, Keio Stroud.
Number 4, Greg Morrow.
3, Paul Snyder.
2, John Hammond.
1. Kevin Rapillo.
Yeah. You were waiting for that, weren't you?
Happy New Year,
Yeah, I
everybody.
had to one at
That's
that.
on the pictures.
Y'all couldn't have done any better. That was amazing.
That was fun.
We took your idea.
I've heard so much about it for years. And
I do want.
I thought, what's that?
Sign the drum.
You guys gotta sign this here.
I've gotten close. What is
This is a commemorative, whatever you want to call it.
He's over there. His wife is French.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Over there. He's a sweet. Oh, I do too. Sweetheart. 40 years. And he loves you. He loves your plan.
I've been meaning to call you for so long.
Well, I see you. I've watched a lot of
I'm playing a
videos.
little golf again, so maybe we get out.
Dude,
What are you gonna do?
Really?
That stuff is out there.
And it's like 6 months ago, I couldn't do that. I really can't. It's one of those weird things. It's like it didn't affect my playing at all. But like a backswing or it was just like what I did.
Rotator cuff.
I don't know, but it's getting a lot better since that time it won.
That's, you know what?
I gave my clubs away.
Keio, what's it called?
Every time I go by the, I got some things.
Yeah, you're right, I guess.
See that creek. I think about that. I think I go find one of those spots.
Some big fish out there.
Yeah, like some smallmouth or something, a trout.
Smallmouth was right out back.
Who ain't signed that thing? Somebody go sign that thing.
You have to stand below that. I don't care where he's at.
I think I'd last a week or a month and spend like 22 years.